I think I've seen enough from Jensen where I don't believe he is a long-term franchise stable player for me. And I'd rather get someone else, or I'd rather start investing into someone else. Because Jack definitely cares about his league team, and he's not going to let go of Jensen for just money. He has to feel like we can do better, and this is not our end game. We can get someone better than Jensen.
Okay, this is going to be episode 5 of Listen Loco. Usual host and co-host, as implied by the name and the title of the show. But we have a guest for this one as well. Loco's come through again with a guest. Here's the question. Which side do I go with first? Do I start out by saying he was a rioter? Because you know what? Some people like Riot, some people don't like Riot. Some people probably think that's quite cool. People aspire to work for Riot, you know. It's one of those good news, bad news scenarios. So good news, you know, he worked for Riot. It's a big company. They had a lot of people there. He got some experience under his belt. Bad news, general manager of Golden Guardians. Less said about that, the best. Skip past that. We actually have a clause in all of our contracts on this show. We try never to talk about the Golden Guardians or anything that ever happened at the Golden Guardians. It's kind of like Las Vegas. Whatever happened, it happened. It was there. Time's passed now, and we're all back to our real lives, aren't we? So it's Dgon, someone who, as I said, was working for Riot and then formerly general manager of Golden Guardians. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, Thorin. Happy to be here. Just a quick clarification. I was manager, so the organization of Golden Guardians ran without an official general manager at that time.
Certainly seemed like it, yeah.
Yeah, you could tell.
Keep going.
The organization moved forward with that. Loco kind of took care of a lot of those duties to start off, and then as the season progressed, I kind of filled in some of those gaps, and so did some of the upper management. But just kind of quick clarification there.
Fair enough.
For the fans for our hundreds of Golden Guardians fans.
Wait,
I'm just impressed Loco didn't even know your own job title and he worked in an organization with you because he's the one who told me that. So
yeah. Loco was like, hey, you need a job? I was like, sure. And you can tell that's kind of how things went, right?
Wow, that wasn't it at all. But we won't get into it. But speaking of Riot, there's something I have to tell you guys. Did you guys know I am a League of Legends partner? I'm a LPP, Riot officially. Like, I'm a partner of Riot. Look, I got a cool hoodie from them. It's a Jinx hoodie.
They sent me. We just saw the hood and we didn't see anything else on there.
Just look like a white hoodie, just a plain white hoodie.
Doran, so we are like we want to be friendly to Riot. Riot loves us, or me more specifically.
I don't know about that, mate. I'm not trying to be too friendly with Riot, mate. Like, I'm not trying to be enemies. Like, I've never chosen to be Riot's enemy, but you know what? I just keep them at a reasonable distance. You know, our two worlds can't overlap too much. There can be a little bit. We can be friendly. We can be like neighbouring countries, but we're not making a treaty or anything. You know, we're just you keeping your country, us in man. Every now and then we have like a national holiday or something. But then aside from that, stay the fuck out or pry this gun from my cold dead hands or whatever they say in your country.
Okay, kind of off topic, but I do want to ask you: between Riot, Valve, and Blizzard, like, who do you like the best, and what do you think of the three?
Yeah.
Do you mean me?
Yeah,
that's you.
Oh, right. Okay. Riot, Valve, Blizzard. Well, there's a very easy way I always explain this whenever people ask me, because people often, since I obviously come from games where I cover like eSports that all these developers do, the usual way people ask me that question is like, oh, you know, what do you think about like the way like there's franchise leagues in one, but the other one's like an open circuit? And I always give basically the explanation that I'm going to give now, which is Riot and Blizzard are like the super strict parents. So in whatever culture you're from, that if you're like from America, imagine you're from like the deep south and they're like super Christian. You're not allowed to drink. Like, you know, you have to like go to church every week. You have to be super strict. Like your behavior is monitored in every way. That's like Riot and Blizzard to me. I know people didn't know that about Blizzard because they only had StarCraft. So people didn't realize like Blizzard implemented a lot of this kind of stuff that Riot did, but just before and in a smaller version of the game. For Valve, it's not that they're like an awesome parent that's like, you know, taking you on car trips and giving you candy and stuff. No, they're just like the parent who's too busy working and he's never home. So because he's never home, you do whatever the fuck you want. And then maybe occasionally, just very rarely, if things go really out of control, like you have a party and trash the whole house, yeah, he might come in then and be like, what the fuck's going on in here? But like, aside from that, he generally just keeps the fuck out of your way. Every now and then he just drops off some money, you know, feels a bit guilty about not being a good parent. That's what Valve's like. So I prefer Valve out of those settings.
Sounds like a parent that if he catches his kid at a party, you would just give him a beer there. Like, as long as the money's coming in and you're getting the viewers and the sponsorship, Valve's like, you know, do whatever you want.
As long as things seem cool enough, you know, they're not going to overreact too much.
Yeah.
But put it this way, like what I'm kind of alluding to there, though, is like I think even Valve, if they actually took the same kind of control that like Blizzard and Riot do over their IPs, I think Valve themselves would definitely implement a lot more stuff than they currently do. Like I don't know if they'd go as far because they're a smaller company, they don't seem as crazy in that sense. But if you notice, just every single game dev does certain things the community doesn't want, because just they're a different set of people.
I mean, they own the product and they work very hard on it. So I think from just kind of coming up through the League of Legends Riot ecosystem, you understand why they're so hands-on with everything, every single little implementation, because there is quality of your product and the production value that you've put in. And for a lot of the time, not always, the tournament structures that are there and how things are ran. And there's so many things that can go wrong when you're working with a not trusted partner. And even at times, like the IEM issues that happened back for IEM Masters, when like all of a sudden op sounds are playing out of nowhere, like even with trusted partners, sometimes that kind of slips away. So I think that's why you kind of like tiger mom it with a big publisher like that.
Okay.
Let's just move this topic on, shall we? Because like I'm already restraining myself quite a lot right now on this particular one. So we'll just keep moving on. Yeah, I guess Riot's okay, aren't they? Right, we'll agree to disagree on that one. Right, let's get into some actual topics that are relevant. So obviously the off-season is like in full swing. You've already seen a whole bunch of moves. Like for example, Team Liquid did their moves like staggered one day apart, where they brought in Jensen and then they brought in Core JJ as the support player. So let's do this one first. So let's start with that big one, because that's obviously like a massive blockbuster to really open the season up, is that Jensen leaves Cloud9, where he's just finished top 4 at Worlds, goes over to Team Liquid, currently one of the main rivals. They obviously played each other in the NALCS Summer Finals. And I think for most people, bearing in mind we don't know yet who they get instead of Jensen, it's pretty shocking if you're a Cloud9 fan, because you kind of like, unless we're getting Faker, what's our upside to this? So what do you think of this move, Dgon?
I think you're putting a lot of faith into Reaper and into Jack, just like you did at the beginning of this summer split when they were tanking it. They were switching out their roster. They hashtag benched with Smoothie, Sneaky, and Jensen. And rightfully so, if you're a Cloud9 fan, you're a little more nervous than before, because you're like, we've had these guys, we've had these stars, we always start late and then kick it in to the back end, very much like the New England Patriots do in football. They always like tank the first 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're destroying everybody and they find their way into the playoffs and at times at the championships. To me, it's a little confusing because you've had Jensen for such a long time as a import player, and now he's turned into an NA player.
I think
now
that starts in summer.
Yeah,
I believe he's got one split left, but you're right, he will be this season as far as I know.
But you've had that investment.
Sure, I'm sure that's something Jack was thinking about, yeah.
So he must have something in mind. Reaper must have some sort of connection to replace that, because he is a superstar mid laner when he's at his best. And that's the big clarification there that needs to be looked at, because he hasn't always been at his best, whether it was nerves or sickness or new teammates. There's always something that kind of made you always go, Bjergsen's #1 MVP. This is easy. Even though Jensen's numbers were insane, he was clapping everyone back in summer 2017. But there was always that thing that he didn't quite have. And it actually came out in that article that he recently pinned with Team Liquid, like good enough. Like sometimes that was him. Like, was he going to be good enough to carry Cloud9 over the hump? And the answer over the past several years was no, he hasn't. And that's not a knock on him as being a great talent. He is like 1, 2, or 3 best mid laners in North America, and has shown that he's able to thrive on the world stage. But it's almost like in super crunch times, is he there? Can you rest your hat on him? And it's questionable sometimes. So you see why Cloud9 made the move, but it's kind of like a head scratcher. If you invested so much in this guy, you had so much turbulence around him, you wouldn't want to give it one more go for this next year.
What do you think? I think the replacement has to come with some sort of, I guess, attitude issues on Jensen's side, and Jack and Reaper's confidence that they can replace him and do better. Because the initial benching came because of like attitude and motivation issues. I mean, they didn't downright say it, but obviously like something was going wrong in scrims where the old school players weren't performing, or weren't invested into the game as much. And Jack probably felt like if Steve offers me enough money, I think I've seen enough from Jensen where I don't believe he is a long-term franchise stable player for me. And I'd rather get someone else, or I'd rather start investing into someone else. Because Jack definitely cares about his league team, and he's not going to let go of Jensen for just money. He has to feel like we can do better, and this is not our end game. We can get someone better than Jensen. And I definitely don't think it's skill level. Like skill level wise, Jensen is more than satisfactory. So the only conclusion I can come to is probably attitude and motivation wise. Like he saw something falter in between spring and summer, and he doesn't want to deal with it again. Or he already has someone in line. Maybe someone like Caps. I can't imagine anyone else but like Caps or Perks. But they're both on G2 now, so it is still a puzzling move. But it's hard to bet against C9 nowadays. Like they could like get rid of everyone, and I would still be hard pressed to say they're gonna fail next year, because they've just shown history of success over and over and over again from nothing. That's one of the hardest thing to do. Make something out of nothing. If you already have pieces, then you can do something with it. But oftentimes, like C9's making something out of nothing. So yeah, it's questionable move from C9, but can never question C9 at this point.
If I had to, go on then, Matt.
Thanks, man. Sorry, Thorin. The biggest difference, though, between their history of doing it and last year, was specifically with Smoothie moving on to Echo Fox and then them having Zazel, is kind of countering what you said. When they make it out of nothing, like they made that move to move Smoothie and move on from other players when they knew they had someone in the wings. Like they moved on from Balls, they got Impact. They moved on from Smoothie, they had Zazel, who they had seen for a while. Is Golden Glue the guy? Is it going to be Grayson? And I love Grayson. Grayson's a great dude. He has worked his tail off, and he's shown that he can compete in the NALCS. But this time, you're moving virtually one of your two world superstar players. We'll throw Sneaky in there. And moving him without a surefire answer behind him. You know, so I think it is a little different this time.
I want to throw this question to Doran. Do you think Golden Glue will start? Because I know Doran loves Golden Glue.
No, in fact, actually, that's why I don't buy the narrative of like I mean, obviously we won't know for a while. It'll take, like, people won't give an honest answer within the next few months. But if I had to guess, I actually don't think it comes down that Cloud9 were the ones initiating this move. Like, yeah, we're going to let you go, actually. I think if I had to guess, it was more like Jensen got like a sick offer from Team Liquid. Maybe he's even the one that bore some sort of hard feelings from the benching thing and was like, right, you know, I've accomplished all I can here, Jack, but I want to move on. I want to go to this other team that's given me a great offer. And he just facilitated the move. And, you know, in that kind of a spot, you don't want to look like the bad guy if he wants to leave anyway. Maybe you just make it happen. Because that's the problem, is anyone who wants to spin it the narrative of like, oh, Jensen, you know, attitude problems, you know, better to have someone you can coach better. Well, Golden Glue, you can coach the fuck out of this guy. Problem is you can't make him twice as good a player, so it's irrelevant. And like, there's a real reason why the happy storyline wasn't like, oh, Golden Glue got us into the finals of NALCS. He's now the starting mid lane in the NALCS. Oh, wait, no, he isn't. Because obviously we want to win. So we didn't play him then. We didn't play him at Worlds barely ever. Like, you know, there's a real reason. Like, there's a reason he wasn't the sub for Worlds. So if it was about just taking a guy with a good attitude, like, I would say like you'd have gone with the Golden Glue move permanently, and you'd be like, right, sorry, Jensen, you're on the way out. Like, you're not coachable. I also think all people overrate that angle. Like, it's not as stark a contrast. It's not like Jensen's this super asshole. Golden Glue's the best guy ever. I would say Golden Glue has his own attitude issues, probably massive confidence issues, insecurity when he's on stage. He's got his own issues to deal with. So if I had to guess, I would say it's more like Jensen leaving, because actually I think what Dgon said earlier is a very pertinent point now, which is that if anything, if you're Jack, now is when your investment is truly ripening, because you were about to have it where you would have Jensen's talent as a NA mid. Basically, Jensen would be the new best NA mid. Jensen and Bjergsen are now the best NA mid laners. Like, it's not Pobelter anymore. They are counted as identical to Pobelter. So his value now got even crazier, because he could have kept Jensen and added fucking Bang or something, someone even better, you know, who's an import player. So if anything, that's why from the Cloud9 side, I don't really see how this could be like a good move for you. I could see why you might make the move happen, because you don't want to keep someone trapped if they don't want to stay there. But you've got to take it on the chin if you're Cloud9 with this one. I feel like it's a rough move for you no matter what. Like as we've said here, the names you've thrown out, there's zero chance any of them are coming. Perks, Caps, they're not coming. Febiven's going home already. Who else have we even got? Bjergsen's not leaving TSM. Like, Faker's not leaving. Rookie's not leaving IG. Like, who is there who's going to be better than Jensen right now? You're going to have to gamble, whoever you're taking, I think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you get Kuro from Korea now that Kuro's released. Also, BDD is released. Like, those would be like the two big names. But like, you'd be even paying more. Like, it'd be
if you were going to take a risk, you could go Power of Evil. Like, Power of Evil would be a risk.
Gross.
But yeah, it's about it. Not a lot.
The same guy who bigs up Santorin thinks Power of Evil's trash. All right, homie. Well, we'll just leave that one in the dust, shall we? Because neither player's relevant right now, and keep moving on. So here's the question.
Yeah,
there's another part to this equation, which is obviously there's a player who made room for Jensen in Team Liquid, which is Pobelter gets removed. So let's look at that side. Jensen to Team Liquid and Pobelter removed from Team Liquid. Is this a fair move, Loco? Removing Pobelter?
If you're just looking to be good in NA, no. Pobelter gives you such a strong building piece. Like, you have an NA mid that can compete with imports. Maybe not best them, but definitely keep up and be a solid member that's easy to just play around. Like, wide champion pool, not someone too needy, and works well with everyone. But if your goals are international success, and that truly seems to be Team Liquid's goal, like, they want to win Worlds because they just won summer and spring like hella easy. Like, why do they need to worry about like replacing people? Even though they failed at Worlds, like, if they ran it again with this roster, I still think they would be favorites. So they want to do something at Worlds. So I can see why they want to replace Pobelter. He's never really shown great success on the international scene. So yeah, it makes sense in the bigger scope of things. For NA, nah.
And tacking onto the Team Liquid wanting to win Worlds point, when they went with the super roster last year, at the beginning of the year, they weren't finding results. There were issues between the bot lane. They didn't look like they were doing great. It was one of the few teams that the Golden Guardians got a victory off of at the time. And it kind of showed that they're willing to go through those bumpy transitions to ultimately be better than what they thought. And here's a move coming along that would allow them not only just this upcoming spring split to be better, but then once Jensen goes NA, that's a whole nother piece that they could theoretically bring in.
Sure.
Where do you guys think Pope goes?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
The big question is, like, is any actual top team going to get this guy? That's the problem. I feel like no. So I think logically, if you look at the NALCS, logical places, I mean, Clutch Gaming has a mid lane spot open. They're probably around the level of where he'd be a good player. Possible return to CLG if they were willing to make that move. I don't think that would be that crazy, you know. So it's not going to be a good team, surely. Optic might not have Power of Evil, so who knows what goes on there. That it's probably like mid to bottom half of the table teams if we're being reasonable. I mean, like realistically, because here's the thing. I know a lot of people who are fans would probably instantly take the trade of Pobelter over Ryu. But the reason Ryu's in that team is because he's Pori's boy. Like, Pori knows how to use him, likes what he does in the team. So that's what I mean. When you try and just figure out a mixture of like where would be a good spot for him and then what team actually would want him, I don't think there's that many names. I think there's a few, and I think he'll get an NALCS spot, but I don't think he's going to go to a contender personally.
I think it kind of depended on this Clutch Gaming roster move because they still have the rights to Piglet, I believe. And so they could think about going with a fully Korean roster where you have Lyra, Pobelter, Piglet, and then NA support and import top, right? Or something like that. You would be able to import a little bit more there with Clutch if that's something that you're interested in doubling down on. I know that Febi leaving was an interesting thing, and I know we'll get to that in a second, but that is a possibility with the world of North American regional talents now being recognized as North American talents. I guess or import talents being North American talents.
I think it'll be FlyQuest because I think FlyQuest is a really good culture fit for Pobelter. Being with
wait there a sec, you're lagging, mate. It's just you as well. I can see he's fine. So wait there 1 sec.
All right, cool.
He's lagged out completely.
Cleaned his room. Didn't clean his internet.
Am I lagged?
Yeah, you're back now. You lagged out during everything you were saying there. You just said like you think he'll join FlyQuest because it's a good culture fit.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think FlyQuest would be a really good culture fit for Pobelter, like reuniting with Turtle. I don't think he's going to go to a contender either, and I do think contending teams are going to have to look beyond Pobelter. So yeah, just wild guess, I think it's going to be FlyQuest.
To be honest, though, if FlyQuest, like, I mean, I guess no one knows what happens to Flame yet because he said that he's like available from open market. If they could keep Flame, that's not a half bad team. Wild Turtle, Pobelter, Flame, that's like a pretty solid middle of the table squad.
Yeah, that's 3/5 of the old Immortals Flame. Oh, I guess Turtle and Flame never played together, but that reminds me of the old Immortal squad a lot. And the thing is, like, even though Immortals like placed really well and they went to Worlds, and like even with Huni Rainover, like they were doing really well. I think the old Immortal squad, if they competed in the current atmosphere of NALCS, they wouldn't do as well. All the teams have just gotten better and better and better, and they were a squad with really good strength, but with a lot of really clear flaws also. So it would be a good middle of the pack team. They would have to overperform to do anything close to World or kind of like finals kind of damage to NALCS.
But they would have an import slot, right? Santorin is an NA player, and they have an NA support. Theoretically, if you have Pobe and Turtle and Flame, that leaves you a spot to import, whether probably maybe jungle. Like, I think Santorin performed pretty well this split. But again, you know, did he take you over the top? Not quite, but then that gives you an opportunity to build Flame and someone again. Flame and Rainover, Flame and...
There's some Koreans out there you can get.
Yeah,
there's some people available on LCK if you want to go that route. And obviously, remember the benefit to having Koreans is obviously that Pobelter can speak Korean, which is a massive bonus as well as him being an NA player just already. So, as weird as it sounds, that's actually one condition I would love to say. Is like I'd hope he goes to a team with a Korean player because it seems like it's a sort of an underrated advantage he has over a lot of the other people in the scene. Because obviously it's a lot harder to just make the Korean person learn English overnight when they've never been doing it. Okay, what about this angle though? Because we didn't properly address it though. Is when Jensen joins Team Liquid, does that actually make them a team that can do something at Worlds?
Oh, this is a hard one because overall it is an upgrade, and long term I do think it'll be an upgrade, but not as like straight up an upgrade as a lot of people think. It kind of reminds me of TSM when they first had Double and Bjerg together, where they are two very resource-heavy players on one team, and you're going to need to find a good balance, and you're really going to need to think about like how this is all going to shape out. I think once they get their things together, they can reach the level of that old TSM roster with Haunter, Svenskeren, Bjergsen, Biofrost Double. I think like that's like the kind of level they can be at. And I know I'm going to get memed like crazy. That TSM roster didn't even make it out of groups, Loco, like blah, 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 and all that stuff. But that TSM roster, like, were pretty good contenders, and they were very, very hyped going into Worlds. And I mean, we know the infamous...
They also didn't have Xmithy in the jungle, mate. Like,
yeah,
they actually have like more of a well-rounded team in this Team Liquid lineup, you could argue, you know.
Yeah, so I think they can get to that kind of height. Probably not this year Fnatic kind of level of height or like skill level, but still like a very, very, this team should be making it out of groups. This team can potentially go to semis kind of level if everything does click.
How about Doublelift playing with like both top NA mids and both Bjergsen and Jensen? What a lucky guy. I think in this case though, it is an upgrade because when you watch Pobelter on the world stage, it felt like he was just getting suppressed. It wasn't like he was popping off, and even when he played like supportive champs, he was getting suppressed. Whereas you know that Jensen can pull out the Zillion and make an impact on a team and just like run it through the top lane or run it through the bot lane and work that way. So I feel like you have a little bit more versatility with Jensen and know that he can pop off against some of the top world talent. He does fight like nerves issues at times, and he's been vocal about it, but I do think that there's just a higher ceiling there and a little bit more versatility, which makes this more of an upgrade than when you think like a partial upgrade.
If this team doesn't do well, though, if this team doesn't make it out of groups, man, the memes and the amount of pressure and the stress this team is going to be put under is going to be crazy big. Like C9 fans shitting on Jensen, TSM fans shitting on Double because like, oh, you left our teams and now like you're doing shit at Worlds, so go fuck yourselves. And like just the whole of NA, and then Europe's going to have a heyday. Like this, look at this NA super team do bad. This is one team. if they fail, they're gonna have the entire world against them.
Good. They should.
There's the super team.
You know
exactly.
that I've never understood that complaint. This is, you know what? Someone should do a whole episode just on that topic. The fact that Americans would ever even bring that topic up. Like if you're Fnatic, right? Fnatic won both the splits this year. Imagine they'd failed at Worlds. Of course they'd get people hating on them, saying, "Oh, you were overrated." Shit. Why would anyone ever complain about that though? Like I want people to think if I fail, it's bad because I'm expected to win. Like that's the best possible position to be in. If you like, as the old adage goes, if you can't handle the heat, get the fuck out the kitchen. Like if you're I've got nerve issues, if people think I'm a win, I want to be the underdog. Well then go to a shit team, idiot. Like what are you trying to do being in the best team? I'm here to pay you $1 million to win Worlds, homie. Like what are you talking about? You're scared. Go get some therapy with that $1 million. You can get quite a bit for like 10K, you know.
Well, even with my first stint working, with Golden Guardians and learning how players work, it gets to all of them. Like no matter what you say, it gets to all of them at some point, one or another. Whether it gets to them and it affects them a little bit, it gets to them easily, but affects them a little bit. But then they're able to refocus, or if it just takes them a long time, finally they break, they look, and they just get pooped on. Like it doesn't matter where you are if you're super team or not. So I don't think that point is super relevant, Loco. Like, if TSM fans come and try to crap on Doublelift, he just goes, "Hey, look at these 2 trophies. What you got?"
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing. And then he moves on. Like I don't think that's a huge issue on like the haters.
Like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I know people will think this is an outrageous statement, but like I never understood why people went so hard on Team Liquid this World. It's like, yeah, they didn't look good, but like if you asked me which I want, would I rather have 2 NALCS trophies or top 4 at Worlds once? I'd take the 2 trophies, mate. Like I'd rather win.
For sure.
Who gives a fuck about one time coming top 4? And remember, top 4 isn't even the finals. Not like you were the first loser. You were second to third loser in the tournament. Brilliant, yeah, great. Like you didn't win, did you, homie? Like I will say the C9 one has a little bit more impact than past up top finishes because they did beat a Korean team. That's pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
But all the same, that's it. It's not like it's not that, like, I think people put too much emphasis on Worlds in that sense. It's a bigger tournament, but it's not like the be-all, end-all. It's not like we forget the rest of your career.
You want me to tell you something even more important? Sponsors care more about the NALCS wins than
Of course. This is actually, by the way, I'll give you a very quick secret to eSports that a lot of people won't know. The way that Alex Garfield made Evil Geniuses the biggest organization in all of esports before he basically had to leave because he was with Twitch and then there was a whole scenario where he couldn't work with the team anymore. The way he did it was exactly what you're describing. So, for example, he would have a CS team and he didn't have the best team in the world. In fact, his team was never winning tournaments. But what he was able to say every time to the sponsor was, we win the North American tournaments. Look, we won this qualifier, we won this league. So we are North America's #1 team. And since all his sponsors were North American, in their brain, they were like, right, we've got the best team in our region. So they never cared that, like, some team from Sweden was technically better in Counter-Strike or some guy from Sweden in StarCraft 2 was better than Idra or whatever. They just cared that on paper it looked to them as just a business guy, like, we're an American company, we represent the best NA player. Like, that is actually a big deal, but fans won't realize it, but that is actually like a very significant aspect. And in that sense, I can't actually fault Reggie for all those years where he made those sort of like brutal step-ins to make them win the NALCS. It was probably worth it financially. Yeah, it might have cost him like a bit of might not have overcome the tough things to win Worlds that you needed to, but in the short term, I'll bet for business reasons, it was probably dynamite.
Yeah,
I don't think that. Like, I don't think that's what he thought, but I think that's
just I'm just saying, like, if I had to like weigh up the outcome, I think it probably did help. No, I've no doubt he wasn't thinking of that himself.
On that topic too, I think in terms of the legacy of both, I guess, Cloud9 and Team Liquid's team this year in 2018 will have its own chapter where we brought the first championship to Team Liquid after being a meme for forever sure. Fourth or whatever it was. And when they look through spring and summer, it's going to be Team Liquid dominated the year with both championships. When you look at what Cloud9 was able to do, they're going to be the footnote for the North American team that is able to get across. It was like before this team won Worlds, Cloud9 got to the semifinal match, and they're just going to be a cliff note. So I do agree with the fact that it is more important to win the NALCS in terms of your legacy.
I also do think, like, personally, this is a great move if you Team Liquid. Like, even without the whole residency thing, which is obviously going to kick in like one split from now, that just makes it an even more insane move. Like, even if we just talk player for player, clear upgrade, especially in terms of the fact like Jensen actually, he's very interesting. He reminds me actually of exactly the debate everyone's had a million times of Sneaky versus Doublelift, because Doublelift has all the domestic championships, but Sneaky's had all the world's performances. So people always tried to weigh it up. Oh, who's better? Well, no one ever does that for Jensen, I noticed. Like everyone loves to say Bjergsen is better than Jensen. Let's have a look at Worlds resumes if you want to start talking about those, shall we, boys? Because at Worlds, I don't see Jensen just rolling up in a ball and getting his head kicked in by all the randoms in third place European teams and stuff. This guy actually does work. Like I'm with you, by the way. I do think he's got some sort of weird fragility when he's in playoff scenarios in NALCS. I won't say he's like a choker outright, because he's had a lot of games he's very good.
Yeah, it's not choking.
But I'd say I normally go the other way with that. There's a very rare group of people who just win every time and like never seem to fail. So he's just not quite in that group. And that's at the moment. Who knows? This team he could be. Because another thing I've always thought was a problem in some of the past Doublelift teams is like, if you know Doublelift's personality, if his team starts like collapsing in a game, he's the guy who sort of like withdraws mentally, internally. He's like, right, fuck, I'll just do what I can in my role. But like, we probably lost this. Like he's very quick to mentally check out on a team, like even in the game itself. So having someone like Jensen, now you feel like you got someone you can trust. Like, hey, that guy's already been in my position, basically. He's going to get his job done there. I'll do my job down here. As I say, the clear difference to me, Loco, between the TSM lineups and the Team Liquid lineup is the Smithy factor. It's like you've actually got someone here who can put the pieces together, whereas I often thought like the bizarre thing about that lineup they had before, if anything, what shows you how good Doublelift and Bjergsen were in NALCS is they pretty much didn't need a jungler. They just won anywhere. They're just like, right, if you never lose lane, who the fuck needs a jungler? There we go.
Do you guys
kind of.
Do you guys think this is a weak move from Jensen? Like, I see a lot of similarities between this and KD going to Golden State. Like, I mean, we lost to them twice. Like, we lost to them. Like, I'm just gonna go join them. Do you guys think it's a weak move?
I don't think so at all. I think that I think it's a fit thing. It's a Cloud9 fit thing. And like what you said earlier, it must be some sort of attitude issue thing, because, you know, it is an ego check as well. You're the guy that's carried the team, that put Cloud9 on the map. Well, on the map after taking over Legendary High and all that stuff. And then you get benched. Like, you're really going to bench me? I'm sure that just put a sour taste in their mouth, and just to go watch like Grayson like have some difficulties early on and still keep him benched. Like, maybe it was just beyond repair after that. I don't think it's a ego move to go win. I think that's also a good part of it, but I also think it was just like maybe it was time to go in terms of a culture fit.
Okay.
That also, even though I see where you're drawing the analogy, that it's a good conversation starter, by the way. That wouldn't work unless we apply it fairly to everyone else. So, okay, in that case, Bjergsen, after he lost the Season 5 Summer Finals, was like, oh, Doublelift, please, you're kicking the shit out of me. Please join me, homie. I need to win again. Like, no one would say it that way, would they? Like, even though that, by the way, was one of the most stacked, like, super teams ever. In fact, look at the team they had this year again. They were just stacking all these champion players together. But no one would ever criticize TSM, because if you're in TSM, you're allowed to get the best players. I know that people love talking mad shit on Steve, like, haha, look, he spends all his money. Yeah, to get the best players he can. That's basically your job as a team owner. What are you talking about? Like, he's doing a great job, if you ask me. Like, your actual job, believe it or not, what Cloud9 did this year was amazing, because if you're like a top team, you're not really supposed to be the person giving like a brand new rookie a chance and hoping he works out. Like, they got kind of a bit lucky that they did. And in fact, if you look at how the season ended, okay, yeah, Zazel turned out okay. Everyone was loving Blabber in the summer. I didn't hear anyone complaining he wasn't getting playing time at Worlds, because in the end, they had to kind of realize, like, okay, maybe he had a limit to how far he could go. And at Worlds, actually, let's just revert it and get the veteran back in. So if anything, they got a bit lucky with that approach of like taking chances on the rookies. Like, I think this is a great move overall. I'm like, props to Steve for pulling it off. It's hard to argue against it working right now until we've seen them in the game. You know, like, all signs point to this is a great move that could potentially make you better than you were.
Let's not dive into this too much, but say summer rolls around and you now have Impact, Xmithy, Jensen, Double, and Core JJ, and you want to make a move. Which player is the one that you look to make a move from? Like,
I think it's got to be
Impact.
For me. It's got to be. I'd go with Xmithy personally.
Really?
Oh. Yeah. See, like,
the problem
Double's
is
untouchable, but is he untouchable?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Here's
he's
the
untouchable.
problem. Xmithy's also been a part of a lot of World's failures, mate.
Impact hasn't played carries well for a while. Other than Gangplank, Impact has been almost purely tanked.
Sure.
And more likely than not, like with all the Riot's preseason changes and how Riot wants more fighting, I think we're going to see less and less tanks, and being able to do really well on carries is going to be super important. If Impact can be good on carries again, then sure, like we can stick with Impact. But if it becomes like the same problem of Impact doesn't really play carries very well, or Double doesn't, like I don't know, like Double likes being played to bot side, so maybe Double plays a part in it, and that's why TL couldn't play carries. But for whatsoever reasons, if Impact's not able to play carries well, I think that's going to be one of their huge downfalls at Worlds, if that's what the meta turns out to be.
And for me, if you remove Xmithy, you're removing your glue guy. And every championship basketball team, every team always talks about who is their glue guy that they can go to when times are hard. They make a joke, or they're just even keeled all the time. And interacting with Xmithy, he's just, that's him all the time. Just even keeled, just gives a response, laughs every now and then, knows how to keep things light, even though he possesses, one of the most stacked world's resumes from North America. So
I think of all the egos on the team. Like, you can't add another ego. Remove Xmithy and you put in another like high ego. Like, remove Xmithy, you put in someone like Dardoch. Remove Xmithy and you put in someone like, I don't know, anyone with a big ego that comes with a lot of skill. Then TL's not going to function as a team. I think Xmithy, Daniel said it perfectly. I think Xmithy is the glue to TL, and he's super crucial for that roster to be able to function.
Right,
Depends if you can upgrade him, mate. That's the whole point. Remember, you can upgrade with an import now.
Yeah, but that import's not going to fill the glue role.
Yeah, if you can't speak the language,
wait a minute. What does that mean?
Very difficult.
Wait a minute. What does that mean? What kind of ridiculous assertion is that? Like, well, so Loco's statement is, right, square brackets, whoever they assign, who I don't know yet, can't possibly do what Xmithy's doing.
Yeah, I think if it's
what an outrageous statement that is.
All right. Oh man, if it's an import, one, they're not going to be able to speak the English. One, the culture is going to be different. One, like,
you are aware there's a place called Europe that imports come from, and they are better than you at English. You definitely can't.
You are aware European players and they're
mate. Get me someone from Denmark. They bury you in a fluency
exam. Tell me another
exam.
Nazi joke, and then talk to me about cultural issues. Like there are some major issues that happen between European players and North American players. Just not even simply because of communication, but because of the paradigm that is shaped between how they've grown up. And when we move on,
let's get Jensen out then, mate. I mean, he was literally DDoSing people off the internet so he could beat him in fucking solo queue. So,
and look how long it took for him to finally be that piece that they could build around, where they felt comfortable. Okay, hi, we don't need you anymore here on Cloud9. We can actually, you don't have to role swap to support. You don't have to role swap to jungle. Like, we're ready to go ahead and hand the reins on over to Incarnation, who's now Jensen. Like, that took some time. So if you're trying again, like, if that's a move for the future, that's fine. But I assume you're making that move in the summer because you want to win Worlds that year. And, like, the
right, wait a minute. So the premise was we're doing it after one split because, right, okay, I didn't follow that part. I thought you just meant in the future. Sorry. Okay.
Oh, okay, no. I meant after one
Well,
split.
you probably can't do that move anyway in the summer then because everyone's got contracts. So you probably wait till the end of the year, I assume, before you make that move.
Steve's middle name is Skrilla. Like, he can buy out anything that he wants.
It is a little bit different buying people someone between spring and summer, because then if you let go of a piece and after spring, then you also have to go and buy out from someone because there are people available.
Like, I think, first of all, it's just miscommunication. I think the reason why, like, you don't realize what a ridiculous statement that sounds like is, what you mean is, like, you would just bet that most people wouldn't be as good at Smithy at that one particular aspect of the game, right? Like being glue guy, small ego, etc. There clearly are players who could be better than Smithy as a jungler for Team Liquid. Let's not be ridiculous.
I think overall, just synergy-wise and like the pieces that Team Liquid has needs Xmithy, and maybe they'll develop over time to not be more flexible. But I think a roster with Jensen and Double Lift, Xmithy is so core to that roster. Yeah, I mean, enough about TL. Give me a different topic, Doran.
Okay, right. I'm not that interested in this move personally, but what do you think about Febiven leaving Clutch Gaming?
I think good. Josh actually said it best. Good riddance. So I watch a lot of streams, and earlier in the year, when I was Masters, I was in game with Febiven. Febiven didn't, like, he really did not enjoy being in NA. Like, he did not treat I mean, I don't think a lot of people treat solo queue respectfully, but Febiven definitely was one of the people that I would say, it's like, why the fuck are you even playing solo queue if you're going to behave like this? And he didn't seem like he was having a great time on Clutch Gaming. And he is one of the original people that said, I would never go to NA. Like, NA is for, like, money only. NA is where you go to die. And I do think he truly, truly believed that. And that's how he felt on North America. You know, when I was watching the Febiven hype video that Misfits put out, almost all the clips were from back in Fnatic and back in H2K. There, because he wasn't doing that well in NA.
He had one Azir play, I think, where
Yeah.
he got 4 people and in his like time there. He wasn't the dominant force that we'd seen on H2K and Fnatic once he got here. And when just kind of speaking with a couple of people, that's one of the players that I think had an issue like adjusting to North American life. Like his close ones were back home. He had a mixed Korean and American roster. It seemed like it was just a lot of moving parts to fit. And even though they could communicate and they had translators and they had an understanding of what they were getting into when they got here, I think it just became too much to overcome for him. So I'm glad that he's able to find a good home back in EU, because he was an exciting player to watch. Like I enjoyed watching H2K with Febiven there, and I think it was unfortunate that things didn't work out for him, but glad that he lands on his feet.
Yeah, I mean, agree 100% with Stardock. Good riddance.
I mean, Dardock's got fucking rich talking shit like that. Like, I don't know about that. But no, the problem I have with Febiven as a player, because I've now seen this in a few different teams, is with the exception of the 1 year that he was on Fnatic when they were really good, he's actually always been like a little bit underwhelming to me. Like, I kept thinking, right, now that Huni Rainover have gone, it's your time to shine, mate. Your time to make it your team. That was like the year that they were super average. In H2K, he came into a team there where they had some good pieces still. They had Jankos still. They still had Odoam there. They had Prolly as a coach. Again, it was fairly underwhelming. Like, he was an okay player. He's still like above average at his role, you know. He's never been bad, but he was never like some super... Like, he wasn't like anyone was talking about Caps now or Jensen in the past when he first came to Cloud9. And I have to tie that personally to his attitude, because in those other teams I'm talking about, except the Daylor year when he had all Huni and Rainover, he seems like a guy who gets sort of like... I don't know if emo is the right word, because then people are going to think he's very emotional. I would say it's like almost the opposite. Like, it seems like when he thinks there's something wrong with his team or his team isn't good enough, it feels a bit like he just kind of mentally checks out from the squad and he plays, he goes through the motions, turns up the games. I'm sure in the context of the game, he's still trying, but like there's a big difference between that, your heart really being in it and believing you guys can win, and realizing, as I'm sure he pretty much did in the first split with Clutch Gaming, like, come on, this team's never going to win. Like, if this is the best we can do is like edge out maybe a top 4 one time. Like, I don't think he ever believed. That's why I don't understand the move, like you're saying. Like, unless he did it cynically and he really did know, like, part of this is just for the money, why did he go to that team? Like, I don't know what that lineup from the second I saw it, I was like, this is not doing anything. Come on, look at this lineup.
So the way that, Sebastian Park, the general manager for Houston Rockets, he said, after like 30 minutes sub, after Febiven put out his free agency post, he mailed him immediately, and then within 30 minutes, he was able to get on a call with Febiven, and Febiven was apparently at a beach, and they were able to strike a deal. So, I mean, the deal must have been juicy for Febiven to be able to like sign like, what is it, very, very quickly. So, yeah, I mean, I think the deal was very juicy, and Misfits probably slow played him a little.
Plus, I will say, unfortunately for Febiven, I can't even... If he really did take this year for, like, the money, basically, you know, like, not only, but, you know, like, the money's enough that it's like, right, I've really got to consider this. Fair play to him for getting the bag for 1 year, because like if you look at the rest of his career, when he was in Fnatic was not when they had big salaries in Fnatic. That was in 2015 and then 2016. And at the time as an org, actually, there were a lot of, like, that was when they had to get a loan from fucking G2. If you remember that story, one of the guys, Jens Hilgers, who's one of the owners of G2, had to give them a loan to continue as a company because they were in like liquidity issues. Then the next year he was in H2K. Again, H2K did not pay their players a lot of money. Like, they're not a terrible org, but they don't have anywhere close to NA money. So even if he did just do it for 1 year, like, let's see where this goes. Oh, what, they pay me a lot as well. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I don't blame him for that. It was obviously a waste of everyone's time. Like, everyone started over again, but fair enough. I don't begrudge someone making some money for once in their career.
It was a big disparity, like from specifically last year, going from a European salary to a North American mid-lane salary. Mid-lane salaries last year were insane. They were insane. And so, yeah, Loco was one of the ones that like worked on that with me. And it's just, if you like are like, hey, I'm gonna make 10x the amount that I made for 1 year, sure, because I just toiled away for 3 years on a great team and have a good reputation that I'm proud of. show me the money. And if, Houston, no taxes, let's hook it up. Let's do it.
Oh, and by the way, one other detail. When you said, his loved ones are back home because his family's back in the Netherlands. By the way, big fan of his dad, if you've ever seen him on Twitter. Did you ever see the infamous tweet his dad once did? Loco won't know this because he doesn't follow ULCS. Back when Febiven was killing it, when it was 2015, Febiven's dad, who actually is on Twitter, his name's Pieter, whatever the Febiven's surname is. It was his real account, and he just did a tweet so proud of you, Febby, coming from my big dick, or some mad shit like that. That's a real tweet. And by the way, it's because his dad's from the Netherlands, mate. And the thing is, people from the Netherlands, I know this because it's kind of a bit like UK humour. They're very sort of blunt in that way, they're not super politically correct or whatever. So I don't think his dad even thought it was some crazy tweet. I think he just thought it was banter, basically, and obviously didn't understand how big esports is. That it's not just your dad posting something on a Facebook group and a junior hockey team you're in or something. A lot of people are going to see that tweet and put together that you are Febiven's dad. But the other aspect is, he also, and this isn't even snitching, because this person, when you hear what their job is, they're not a secret person, but Febiven's girlfriend is fucking top draw, 10 out of 10 level. She's part Korean as well. Look, the reason I'm telling you this, Dgon,
okay, no, I know who she is. I know
it's because she is an Instagram model. So she is someone who is legit as fuck. So if she was back in Europe, I might go back myself, mate. You know what? I'm starting to miss Europe. I'm missing some of those stroop waffles, the fries and mayonnaise. Yeah, I love Netherlands. What are we talking about? How can I get back there?
Oh my god, so
that was put it this way, I bet he was spending a lot of nights where he was right. They were oh, it's weird. Febiven's just checking social media. He's I'll be in my bunk. It's it's that old meme,
I have a lot of female friends that follow her, and then so sometimes they'll be scrolling and oh, isn't this girl cute? And we'll be oh, she's cute. Isn't this girl cute? And then they're oh, isn't this girl cute? I'm wait, that's Febiven in the picture. And they're who? I'm Febiven. He's a League of Legends player. She's oh, that must be her boyfriend. I'm wait, Febiven's dating this person?
Yeah, Febiven's killing it, man.
It was so funny, watching two worlds collide like that. Sure. Killing it on Clutch with the dollar bills and hot girlfriend. Who can blame him? All of us here are jealous.
I will say though, when they said that he was going to Misfits, that is exactly the right team for him right now, because I have to say, like I alluded to before, he has killed his own stock in terms of being the thought of as a Jensen or a Cap, someone you must have. If I have this guy, I'll win domestically and then we can start looking at nationally. I don't think that hype is around Febiven anymore. So I think if you look at Misfits, they're an org that if you look at their players, they've never made any massive blockbuster signings. Sure, that was before franchising, but you look at who they had recently, right? They obviously had Power of Evil, got a lot out of him. Then they had Senkox. Okay, that was a bit underwhelming, I have to say. But if you look at Febiven, upgrade over these players, a player with some experience, has some championship experience. For them, I think it makes sense on their side of the equation. I can see why they do that move.
I don't think he's an upgrade over Power of Evil. I think Power of Evil made his name off of shutting down Bjergsen and almost shutting down in the group stages of Worlds 2017, and then almost shutting down Faker. He negated Faker. I wouldn't say he shut him down. He negated Faker's effect on the game to the point where it went to all 5 games when Misfits lost to SKT 3-2. And I think that was a lot of his specific doing. I think Power of Evil has a very specific style of playing, and the way that he played over an Optic was not beneficial because he didn't quite have the same resources as he did on Misfits. Max Floor was a better player. Alfari is also a monster in the top lane, but I don't know if Power of Evil's last 2 years were worse than Febi's last 2 years. So it feels like we're going off of projections that we think he'll be better.
I'm just going off my ceiling, I think, for the player,
Okay.
I think it pretty much. I mean, you can drop a fucking feather on the scales on that one. Who cares? They were both kind of underwhelming, right? They both had moments that were good, both had moments that were who cares? Okay. And also, Locodoco irrationally hates Power of Evil.
Not irrational. Oh my god.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
Irrational. You're a hater, dude.
You low-key hate on him. Just admit it. I admit I hate on TSM.
I don't hate on
I can admit I'm a hater.
Oh my god. I hate unconventional, these wonky players that choose to be unconventional, it's such a headache to coach and a headache to manage. I would honestly, between Febiven's ego and Power of Evil's builds, I would rather coach and manage Febiven over Power of Evil, and I think Misfits would agree with me, and they picked up Febiven instead.
What about for Clutch Gaming though? Because I have to say, like I alluded to before, I think this is another one of the orgs that came in and did a terrible job. Quite frankly, like I know a lot of this was like memed upon, and they exaggerated it where they were like, "Oh, we've got all these we're hiring all these analysts and designing new systems and metrics from which we'll judge the game." It's like
that was a meme.
If you did any of that, what did you do at the end? Get a fucking axe and smash the supercomputer? Like you didn't apply any of it, you moron. What did your stats tell you to get fucking Solo and Febiven and then have Lyra just play like, "Hello, can I play this season?" Like it was a terrible. The whole thing was terrible. Burn it down. Start over again. You were the opposite of Clutch because you couldn't even get to the end of the game.
Okay.
Not a bad analogy there. Not saying
Enough play.
I went along with you.
Next topic. Let's go.
Okay. But what about this then? Loco's favourite preoccupation and his irrational love, Bjergsen, over in TSM. So Here's the question, Dgon. Do you think that TSM ends up losing some of their players? Like, do some of them go back to Europe with franchising? Does someone leave or get kicked?
Mithy comes to mind immediately. I think he's a very intelligent guy and he's relatively resilient, but he was not playing his best League of Legends for a long time in the summer split when you need to be peaking as a team. Haunter's another player, but he's a North American player, and he's done so well for so long that I think you give him a little bit more of a pass. And then you have Greg. Greg is the glaring one, I think. He's a great kid. When I hung out with him, met with him for a lot of the scouting ground stuff behind the scenes, he has a good head on his shoulders, and he had a huge void to fill when Mike Young wasn't the Mike Young that everyone thought he would be. But I think that those are the three guys that I look at over at TSM. I don't think there's any way that Bjergsen leaves or TSM lets Bjergsen leave. And then I think it's up to Sven. I think it's in Sven's hands now if he's the one that wants to stay with Mithy and work through this, or he believes in Daddy Reggie to go get any support in the world for him to make him better. But I think those three are pretty obvious candidates.
Who do you replace Haunter with that's better? Honestly, there isn't a lot in NA that's really available. And as for Mithy said something I read from TSM subreddit that him and Zeben weren't as close as they used to be this year. So maybe that bond is breaking a little. And the big piece I really want to see TSM try for is Smoothie. I think Smoothie Zeben would be great. And I think Smoothie, NA, then now you're open up to replacing Grigney or Haunter with import, which you desperately need right now. So if TSM wants to go into championship mode next year, I think spend money on Smoothie to buy him out and then import either someone in jungle or someone in top lane, depending on where you feel like you need the most upgrade. But yeah, I also don't see them losing Bjergsen. If Bjergsen was going to go to a team, I think it would have been Origin. I think the connection with Astralis, Denmark, and also Deficio being a very close mentor and a brother figure to Bjergsen. If Bjergsen was going to go to any team, it would have been Origin. And now that Origin announced Nukeduck, or didn't announce, Jacob Wolf leaked
a Wolf bomb, yeah.
Yeah, Nukeduck signing with Origin. I think Bjergsen will stay in NA. I think he's not going to go to C9. I don't see that happening. I just don't see that happening. And if he was going to go to Europe, it was Origin. It didn't happen. So Bjergsen and TSM probably 99%, 95% in my opinion. It's just, what do you do for support? And then once you figure out what's happening with Mithy, the other pieces fall in place.
I think this is a really, really tough one for TSM. First of all, I'll say at the beginning, of all the teams in the NALCS, TSM should get the most flame if they don't have a really good roster this year, because they already can have Bjergsen plus 2 imports. And it's not like this is Bjergsen who, when we were debating before about Impact or something like that, who's going to be an NA resident. Well, the difference is they've also degraded over the years. They're not the player they were 3 years ago. Bjergsen arguably is as good as he ever was. So if you can have Bjergsen basically for free, counted as an NA player, and import 2 players, and you've got the money to get a lot of different players. At the end of the day, if you think about how sports work, that's if you have one of the highest payrolls in the NFL and you aren't even getting the playoffs. You've got to do something if you've got that kind of option, because you have an advantage over a lot of teams right now.
I want to contest you a little bit on the money point. So teams do have money, but they have to be pretty smart about how they spend money now. Now, a lot of teams like Echo Fox and Optic have started to scale back. I know we still talk about TL and their money and how much they're spending, but TL's killing it in other games, winning international, doing great in CSGO. The only place where they really failed is not having an Overwatch team. But other than that, like TL is like growing and growing and growing. Where TSM, their only success. Huh?
All right, keep going. I mean, I just thought it was funny that you thought the only failure they had in terms of trying to have money was not buying an Overwatch League team. Just a little bit of my own amusement there in that one.
Okay.
No one's making money in the Overwatch League. So anyway, I know what you mean. For the future, yes, that's like a good
for the
piece to have
valuation,
for
the valuation of the company.
I'm with you on that one.
Okay. So anyways, like, fuck, you made me lose my train of thought. Oh, the only place where TSM really succeeded outside of League of Legends, in my opinion, is Fortnite, where they have a really great branding in Fortnite. Like, they have a lot of streamers, and when you go to TSM YouTube channel nowadays, sometimes I feel like Fortnite is bigger than their League of Legends fan base. Whenever they upload TSM Legends, they're like, "Where's Miss? Where's Miss? Where's Hamlin's? Where's the W gang?" Like, they really, really care about their Fortnite. Like, the Fortnite fan base is huge for TSM, so TSM has to be pretty careful about where they spend their money in the next few years. They don't have Overwatch. They don't have CSGO. Their two legs are...
so they better fucking win in League of Legends, aren't they?
If you win, like we've already talked about the ramifications of winning, talk about TL being able to go to those sponsors. We have the EG example. So TSM was the biggest organization, and maybe not so much anymore because TL's spending, but TL's winning. And I think it's been a while since, like a year since TSM has done something, and last split they missed. They missed on their roster. I agree with Oren. They can't afford to miss again.
Their pot is a lot lower now. They don't have as much.
It shouldn't be, because if you're the biggest one, you're the best one. That's what you've branded your whole time.
You were. Not you
need
are.
to fix it. You need to fix it, or otherwise, like
TSM took a lot of investment themselves.
Yeah,
they took millions and millions in.
When you take investment, it's not just go out and spend this money like idiots. It's
Loco, you're only saying that because you're in the NALCS. I've known that from day one, mate. Like, if you know anything about sports, you don't just sign a player just because he's available. You sign him because it makes sense in your roster cap, where you are in your business, what you think you'll actually accomplish. Like, that's why in the NBA, the only teams that go over the luxury tax cap are teams like Golden State, who are probably going to win. What they're saying is, I'll pay any amount of money on top to make sure I have the best chance of winning. So that's why I'm trying to draw the analogy here. That's like what it's like for Reginald. If anything, you've inadvertently made the case as to why Reginald should be even more hot on the case of trying to make this League of Legends team win, because he hasn't got anything in Overwatch or CSGO, or Dota 2.
They need to do it right, but it comes with a lot of risk. And 2019 is going to be a super crucial year for TSM in terms of...
I've got an angle for you that you might like.
Okay.
Here's an angle that actually I can sort of give TSM a little bit of breathing room on, which is, what? Not only do they not have the most money anymore, and they're not the best team anymore, which are two good reasons to go there in the past, but I have to say, if I'm a European player right now, and I saw what happened to Sven Skeren, and I saw what happened to Sven and Mithy, I'm not fucking going to TSM for any amount of money. I'll go to Cloud9, where the fans love me. I'll go to Team Liquid, where we might win and it's a fresh start, If you go to TSM, right now, you're in the sweet spot of people still believing they should win, because in your brain, you see a TSM, you think they should win, even though they actually shouldn't at the moment. So you're in the sweet spot of people thinking you should win, yet you probably won't. That's the nightmare spot to be in. You get all the spotlight of people being TSM fans hating on you because you're not winning. And also, let's be real, this is actually where it's going to be. If people thought it was hard to be a TSM player, win NALCS, and then lose at Worlds, try being a TSM player where you don't even win NALCS, but your fans believe that because they think they picked a winner, that you should win every time no matter what. And they might even be wrong on that. So unfortunately, in a weird way, you're going to now get the abuse that the champion gets when you're not even the champion. It's like, what a rough deal to get if you're a brand new player. Because remember, if you're the new player, you're not the guy with the championships. Bjergsen will get spared a little bit. He's got all those NALCS trophies. If you're the guy coming from Europe, they're like basically what everyone did to Mithy, like, oh, come on, mate, I thought you were some sick player. What the fuck's this shit? You're terrible. Like, everyone went super hard the other way on that guy as soon as it failed.
Did you see that TSM's doing what we suggested?
Yes, the in-house scouting thing.
Yeah. How much? I actually have not talked to anyone from TSM about that. I've talked to them, but I haven't talked to them about that. It was a question I was dying to ask, but out of politeness, I didn't. Do you think they were going to do it anyways, or they did it because we suggested it?
I will say this. It's funny that there are so many fans in the world who think that, like, when I did Summoning Insect, for example, oh, who the hell watches that? It's just for haters. If people knew how many pro players watch that show, because you know what, they want to fucking eavesdrop on what people think of them as well, and know what the community's discussing about them. And you know what, if someone's one of the most important reasons people will listen to content is if they think they get flamed in it. Who the fuck doesn't want? Oh yeah, people are talking mad shit about it. Who wants to hear that? Don't tell me what they were saying. Of course you want to know. You want to know what someone famous is saying that I'm shit. You want to know that. So I actually do think it's possible someone watched it from TSM. I wouldn't give us like the main credit. Maybe they had a concept like that in mind anyway. But it certainly could have sparked their idea. Like put it this way, that wouldn't even be a bad move. Like if you are someone who's a top businessman, if you have a good idea, you steal it. Like if it's just a concept of how you do something, there's no point going, oh, well, if I take that, then people might say Loco's to credit. Like, no, they're just going to take it, aren't they? If it's a good idea, a legit one. And that was actually a legitimately good idea.
Monty had a show with Doran, and he built his brand off it. I was like, wait, I'm friends with Doran. I need to build my brand again.
Exactly. Inadvertently, he did the same thing. So we're all stealing from each other. That's all right. Okay. As long as in the end it works out. Oh. The only thing is, though, I have to say I do feel like I have especially because they haven't managed to fix the whole jungle issue, I have a bad feeling it's not going to turn around this year for TSM. Like, I don't think TSM goes back to the top. If anything, I think what you've seen with their squad, it's funny because they didn't have that many great junglers in the past, but because so many other teams in the league now have a lot of talents, especially like at similar positions to TSM, and it's like not even like they have the best players in overall, I can't really see why they'd win at the moment. Like they've just had to change the whole coaching scenario. That's kind of a gamble. They're in a tough spot overall.
I think that players outside of CLG respect Zix. Even the guys in CLG, I think they respect them, but I think the effect wasn't as strong. But I do think that there's an alluring effect of Coach Zix and the mystery and the shroud that goes there with him as a thinker, as an analyst, as someone that worked his way up and as a grinder. He can relate with people in so many different ways that a lot of coaches can't, that I think he does have a pull. But I also think that if your coach is like one of the main reasons why you're going to come, and it's not like the team, it's not your mid laner and your bot lane and your top lane or whatever it is, I think it is a little dicey. Like you get to play with Bjergsen and Coach Zix coaches you. Right now, everything else is kind of up in the air. Haunter used to be good. He's not good right now. You don't know if the bot lane is going to stick together. Shit. You don't know if there's an import there.
I forgot to mention, did you guys see that tweet where Zeben said, it's kind of complicated right now, guys. I'm not streaming. I was for sure that Zeben would stay on TSM because like all the promotions they did, and then also Origin also they announced a AD Sheriff. They announced an AD, so I was like, okay, Origin was a big factor in terms of stealing TSM players, and they announced mid and AD, so it looks like TSM is going to get to keep their mid and AD. But Zeben also tweeted it's complicated, so I'm like, what is going on? Like, are they going to lose Zeben? We didn't even talk about like Zeben possibly leaving. What do you guys think?
I don't think he's leaving. I think it's complicated because his bot lane duo is breaking up. Like that makes sense to me. I don't think that he's leaving. I think it's just, hey, normally I stream with my duo partner, and I don't feel like doing that right now because it's complicated. Like I think the streaming part was actually just like
there's someone else in the house. I can't have webcam.
Yeah. Maybe it's that, but I just think it's just complicated that they're breaking up relationship-y.
You know, that's also an angle I think was never... I noticed no one ever brought this angle up. When everyone was discussing, right, who do you kick out of Sven and Mithy? Almost everyone I saw came down on the side, like, you got to take Sven, he's so consistent, generally doesn't ever play badly, plus he's been a monster. No one bothered mentioning he has played his entire pro career with Mithy as his support. And if you know anything about Mithy's history, he has brought up so many of the good European AD carries, Tabs, Freeze. He brought these guys to the top level. The one common thread with all of them is him. So actually, I don't think you can just automatically assume Sven will be as good without Mithy. Like, this is someone who basically like led the lane, taught him how to play in some ways, had obviously in all the teams they were in, had a big impact on shot calling. Like, it's one of those scenarios where, yeah, I would agree Mithy's individual play was kind of whack, but you never know what intangibles he's like adding to the other guy when it's been your lane partner for like, what is it, 4 years now? 3 years, I guess, going on 4.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point because immediately you look to the comparison. Who do they always compare Sven with? It's Doublelift, and Doublelift has played his whole career with a revolving door of supports, and so I think there is so much built-in synergy that maybe there is a fall off that I didn't consider when I assumed that Sven is the guy that stays, and he's gonna retain the level that he's playing at, just the way that Bjergsen does, and that's why he would do that. That's a good point.
Because, you know, it also makes it tougher to replace that position. Like, for example, are you really going to sign like a Korean support then? If Sven's like, what the fuck, how am I going to talk to this guy? You know, I don't know him, no shared history. If anything, if I'm signing a player on TSM, if Mithy really leaves, might sound weird, but I'd go right back and get Sven another European support. Get him someone else he's comfortable with, someone else he thinks is good. I don't know who that would be. I'd have to like spitball off the top of my head. But there's players out there. I mean, for example, you do notice that, let me think. I mean, who would actually be available in Europe right now? Let me think.
Vander.
I know that Misfits announced like what? Oh no, they didn't. Did they? Wasn't it something like they initially said that like Misfits would be a support, but then now he's the coach or something?
Yeah, no, Misfit support position is wide open. They have 4 European players figured out. Febiven, Soads, Maxor, and Hansama. They have four positions figured out.
They just don't know the support yet.
Yeah, they just don't know the support.
Right, okay. That is interesting then. Because, for example, the guy they just had before, Mickey X, he's actually a pretty good player. He was like a lane dominant type support player. I could see someone like Sven liking to play with him because, like, that's the other thing. In their team, if they're keeping Haunter, like, I think if we've learned anything in 2018 is that Haunter's never going to be like a pure carry player. Like, that's just not his future. So in a team where you have Sven and Bjergsen, you're looking towards making the bot lane one of your strengths. So you're not just picking up a rookie, I hope.
Yeah, one of the weirdest thing about Haunter is, do you guys remember that one split where Double Lift took a break and they had Turtle?
Yep.
Haunter actually played carry really well that split, and then he was almost MVP too. He almost became MVP that split, and I was like, oh, so this year we really got to see what Haunter can do when he is the primary carry and they don't have Double Lift. Like, Haunter's future is super bright, and we never saw that Haunter ever again. Once Double Lift returned, like, we never ever saw that Haunter. Once they got Sven and Mithy, where they're more okay playing with a top carry style, we just never saw that Haunter return. So, yeah, I'm super curious how that Haunter happened and why we don't see that Haunter ever again.
Maybe that has to do with draft, which is why Song is no longer there, and they, went forward with Lost Boy. Because I think it might be the player itself. Maybe he just kind of peaked at that time. Because again, like, Lorlo took it to Haunter multiple times in our games throughout the 4 matches that we got to play against them last year. Like, yes, sometimes it was matchup, but like he wasn't winning some of these. Like, I think it was a Fiora Aatrox matchup, and he only won because Aatrox eventually outscaled. But he was feeding. He was feeding really, really hard. And it's like, if you're a carry player, like, you can't do that when the team is investing in you. So,
all right. Duncan, next topic?
Yeah, the next one we'll talk about CLG. So me and Loco actually discussed this a bit ago. So why don't you give us your thoughts on this one, Dgon? Like, obviously, first and foremost, they've got a new coach. They've got Weldon Green. They've lost 6.
Don't hurt his favorite coach.
I don't have a problem, mate. I mean, he's a snake oil salesman fraud, but aside from that, seems like an okay guy.
I want to bring Weldon on the show. Why do you say stuff like that? Oh my god, I have all these friends.
Don't worry, Loco. That won't happen because he's a bitch. So he won't be coming on the show. He's a coward.
Why do you do that?
I offered him a few times to comment on someone inside. It just never happened, actually. We just never.
Well, you're not good friends with him. I'm friends with Weldon, but when you insult publicly, like, hey, Weldon, do you want to come onto our show? Like, and then you say stuff like that.
I was joking when I said most of that, mate, except for the snake oil part. That's absolutely accurate. But obviously, we don't know yet player-wise what they do, though, Dgon. So in theory, it could be wholesale change, could be no change. We don't know. What do you think of CLG, and what should they do in your opinion?
So I don't think that Weldon will be in charge or control of those changes. I think they have the corporate structure up and down as an organization, which probably turns off some CLG fans because there was a lot of the spirit of CLG that was there through Hotshot and through all the struggles and successes that they had. So I don't think he's going to be involved in a lot of that. I think that you immediately have to move Reignover and move on from Reignover. He's done. The contract is one of the toughest to justify in all of the LCS for a player that kind of like hamstrung your roster because you couldn't make moves. You could not change players. And so when they were able to acquire Wiggly from Cloud9, because Cloud9 made moves for Blabber, I think that was such a godsend from them. But then it was like, because they're corporate, they had to justify, I'm spending like $1 bajillion on this Korean import. I can't bench him because that's how those people think sometimes. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that happened there. I think Wiggly's a great player. I think they move forward with him. Darshan and Fallen Bandit are the 2 top laners, and think you just keep Darshan unless another option comes in, and then that leaves your mid and your bot lane. Your bot lane is the strength of it, right? Stixxay, I think when Stixxay had quiet games, it wasn't because he was feeding, it was just because his team was crumbling around him and his jungler can only path for the first 5 minutes of a game without anything changing. And I think Biofrost had a lot to overcome, if that makes sense. You know, when you get bumped aside by a team and it wasn't your choice, it's hard not to let that affect you. I'm not going to go super deep into it, and I don't think this happened a lot with us and with contracts, but we Golden Guardians were able to acquire contracts, and it just happened really quickly, and it took contracts like a little bit to just adjust. Like, it's all it was just adjusting. I think that's kind of what happened with him for a slow start in the first split, and then like a little bit sluggish later on. But by the end of the season, those two were rocking and rolling on all cylinders, and it seemed like that was something that you could hang your hat on. And I don't know what happened to Huhi. Like, I think Huhi's a great guy. I think he's a great kid. I think he's played well in the past, and we've seen what his peaks are, and he's very smart, and I think does the pocket picks the way that Loco likes to see pocket picks. Aurelian Soul isn't just weird to be weird. It's weird because it requires a ban, and that strategically opens up the champ pool and draft for you. And when he gets it, he wins. So I thought that was great, but he was just way too inconsistent in this field of mid laners as an import, and you just move on from him. So
he's not an import anymore, by the way.
Well, I don't know if he's still worth that value. It's almost like he's the least valuable North American mid laner, I think, if that's what it's considered. You go through all those names that we already cycled through in terms of the mid laners. BDD's open, Kuro, right?
Yeah,
Kuro's
Kuro.
open. There's one more that I think I remember was open. Either way, like, there are guys that are available out there that you can replace him with, and also the jungler as well. So I think it's mid jungle that you move on from, and you keep riding along with Darshan being a fantastic teammate. I think Darshan is more valuable than Huhi.
Daniel, I'll say this. I know what's going on. I'm not going to confirm or unconfirm, but your reasoning is super on point, and you're going to see a lot of similar changes to what you said.
You know what?
And
I
that was
theory.
without information. I was just guessing.
I have a theory about Huhi, which is one of the reasons I never fully bought that he was actually a legit good player. Because if you remember the first year they had him, when they somehow won that LCS split over
Somehow.
TSM, I still don't understand how they won that game. Mate, they almost lost to Team Liquid. Like, they did
We
make
almost
the final.
game 5 fucking double teleport.
That was double TP play, the coolest
God
play
damn it.
ever.
Like that's if you consider it, that probably
That
has
was the
to be the
keeper smash.
closest LCS championship, because obviously in the semis they could have lost, in the finals they could have lost. No, they didn't. Okay, fair play. And yes, MSI looked fantastic. But aside from that, when Hui got like better year on year, but then last year just fell off again, I was like, you know what? I think this is a scenario akin to when Looper played with Mata, where my joke was that like Mata just like brain controlled Looper and was like, right, come down, teleport now. Like, I think in the team fights, Afro moves just like, right, come in now. Because if you remember, like the way he would play all those champions like Aurelian Sol was very unique. Like, he didn't basically play as like a damage threat. He just kind of played to like push people away. Like, actually, he was like an anti-carry in that sense. Like, it was a very weird way to play the game. And obviously, Afromu was very influential in that team. So it's just purely like speculation. I have no inside info on this, but I always wondered how much impact someone like that actually has on your career, because I have to say, since I've seen him now without Afromu, didn't look that great, mate. Like, I wasn't buying into it.
And when I think about the types of plays that they were making when I was at Riot and we were watching CLG play, it was Darshan kind of just taking it all the time in top lane, just like he's down 50, 60, 70 CS, and it's just terrible. And then, Darshan makes a perfect TP play, CLG win the fight, and they win the game. And that's what they were doing. They weren't that identity in this past year. They kind of struggled to find an identity. It was like, all right, Reignover, take us to the promised land, and Robo Reignover would struggle again after 5 minutes, and someone stole his buff. He didn't know what to do or where to go, and everything kind of fell apart. So
does them actually
think
getting
that's pretty good.
Reignover though, like, does that imply that they are willing to spend money, do you think?
Are they willing to spend money? I think so. I think similar to the Golden Guardians, you have a big brand behind it, and you found kind of not shameful results, but not results that you're proud of. And your owners might be like, hey, what are we in this for? What are we doing? What are we doing this for? Like we're the owner of the Knicks, or the Knicks brand, the New York Rangers, all these iconic New York City, and like we're not talking like podunk nowhere Kansas. We're talking about the capital of the world. We're the brand that runs that. What are we doing on the bottom of the table all the time? So I wouldn't be surprised if they did splurge out a little bit to see what they could get and where that can go for them.
One thing I want to talk about is like structure of teams and like how it's different. So like Golden Guardians and CLG, you mentioned there's like coaches, and then above the coaches there's a head coach, and then there's a head of esports, and then head of esports communicates with like owner of the brand. So for a coach suggests something, head coach approves, and then head of esports approves, and then someone above head of esports approves, and then it might get done, right? So compare that to TSM or C9, where Andy and Jack are like, you just get an okay from Andy and Jack and the deal is done. You just get like RTL, you just get an okay from Steve and the deal is done. So those teams are much, much more mobile and can make bigger moves like that compared to like Golden Guardians, CLG, all these like more corporate esports teams. They're much more sluggish, and I don't think it is actually hampering them a lot in like free agency comparatively, in my opinion.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense though. Like you have to realize that's also like a short-term benefit. Obviously in like 20 years, if the game's still here, everyone will have a corporate structure like that. And it won't be like the owner just literally checking in directly. He'll be running a massive organization that's worth billions or whatever. So eventually we'll all be like that. But I agree. I actually think it's a disadvantage at this point to be like that, because the edge that the other owners have got is they themselves know the game to some degree, and they know the people that know the game. So they have a faster track to that information. So it definitely makes sense on that angle. But I think over time that'll become less of an issue.
So the question is, which team is it that's going to splurge out and make that change? And I think it's CLG, just because they for Golden Guardians, we kind of knew into the season, like, hey, this is going to be something that we're building up for the future. Like the future was very much there. I think with CLG, it felt like they had a product that they could put out and try to replace one superstar support with a star support that has found success and has like accolades on his name and, says all the right things, but isn't a shot caller and hasn't been around as long as Aftermoo has been around. And I think there was a little bit more shock factor there. So I think that makes me believe that they're going to be the ones that put up for the split.
Okay, right. That's enough about CLG. What about this then? So a team who actually was the number 2 seed in the NALCS, the 100 Thieves. Well, actually, I've been told you're supposed to only call them 100 Thieves. That's apparently the way they want it branded, So, like, whatever. Who gives a fuck? It's not my fault you did terrible branding that I don't know how to read, is it? Like
T1T.
So 100 Thieves, obviously heavily criticised for everything that happened in Summer and Worlds, right? First and foremost, is it an obvious option that they change AD carry? Because I will say this, if you notice very recently, Cody's son did an interview where he kind of dropped dime on some of his feelings about all that stuff in the offseason and what had happened at Worlds and stuff. So that makes it sound to me as if he might not be in this team anymore.
Yeah, that was pretty juicy. When you make a change like that, when you make a roster change like that, especially in those kind of times, I think they're done. I think they're done. And I think, no pun, but I think Cody's time on Thieves is no longer there. I think Rikara is a good kid that like deserves a shot and works hard. And I've been casting him for like 3 to 4 years and seen his growth. But like, there's no way he's better than Definitely. Like, there's no way he was better than some of the other AD carries that were there. So if you're willing to risk it for that change and then see the results not happen and then knee jerk back or like quickly divert back when you only have 6 games to make it happen, like, I think it's kind of telling. Like, you have your pillars. You know what your pillars are. You're going to play around someday. You're going to play around Afromoo. If you're changing a piece, that means you're not a pillar, which means you're probably on the market to move.
Someday re-signed. Afros, I think, has a longer contract, and he didn't put out a free agency post. So correct. I think we can see those two for sure on the team.
What the fuck was Someday thinking? Is this guy just a sucker for punishment or something? Like unless the money's just so insane. Like, you know what? Here's the one scenario in which it's acceptable for Someday to stay, is that he's just been told, like, all of his loved ones have some like brand new illness and he has to like a hero raise the money to like find like a cure or something. In that case, you're a hero. This is an amazing story. It's just not about League of Legends, you know. Why would you want to stay with this team? Like, if anything, they don't make the best use of you. You probably did have a good chance to go back to Korea, I think. Like, I just don't see why this is the team you want to be a part of. It just seems like it's a flawed project from the get-go.
Money's good for sure. When I saw money's good full show. Money's good full show. For Someday also, I've seen him a little on Dignitas, and like whenever I saw him at like outings and like parties, I didn't think he enjoyed NA very much. Like he would like
He's a very quiet guy, right?
Yeah, he would sit in a corner like with his like cup, and he would just like sip a little, like drink his water, and he would like talk a little bit. Like I would go and make conversations, and then he'd be like, oh, then he'd be like super polite. Like I was like, okay, this guy's gonna go back to Korea. Oh, he stayed for 100 Thieves. What the hell? He signed for 2 years. He was like so appreciative of like Korean fans giving him gifts, like making tweets in Korean. Like I was very surprised he signed for another extended period of time. Like money must be damn fucking good.
Money must be good, and they were close. You know, they were close both times. There's a reason why you get second place, and I also think that he's different. I think he's a player that's built different. Although he does a lot of the pleasantries of a cordial Korean player, a cordial Korean import. After one of our games, it was one of the games that we won, I think. I get to talk about every game that Golden Guardian has ever won in their franchise history. It's a very short story, let me tell you. Someday he was emotional. He's very, very emotional. I had met him.
Yeah, he
a
just
couple
lost
times
to Golden
as well.
Guardians. I mean, Jesus, the guy must have been at rock bottom. I used to be in the final of LCK, homie.
Okay. The other guys were okay.
Fair enough.
Like that's my point. Like I think they're running with Anda or Meteos or whoever at the time, and like he just couldn't do interviews. He couldn't do fan meet, and like for someone who understands process and understands, you know, his role as a pro player and like is so appreciative of his fans, for him to not go out kind of shows me a little bit more of a fire than what other players might have. And I think that maybe it's a little bit of pride too. Like
if you have fire, if you have pride, go back to Korea and win.
No, I think he wanted to show everyone that he can do it here and that he's close. So they must have like, hey, we're going to go sign Doublelift or something. Maybe Doublelift is the TL piece that can move around. I don't know, but
no way.
I'm just kidding. That was a joke. That's no information before that. But I think that there's got to be a reason why he's there other than just money. I think money's dank, but I don't think he's a money motivated kid.
I'll say this. I can't say anything about 100 Thieves, but once the roster's released, I'll tell you guys a very, very fun story.
Okay. Well, thanks for that now.
Because the problem is
a little teaser.
I don't think the current 100 Thieves, that's my issue with them from summer onwards, was like, remember, if they'd have kept the same lineup from spring, I'd be like, fair enough, I'll wait this out, you know, there's quality there. But when they made that big Meteos move, like, Ander was better than I thought he would be. Like, he was better than he was in FlyQuest when he came to 100 Thieves, but he wasn't Meteos. Like, Meteos was legitimately like an MVP candidate type player. He was very good in that team. So when you had Meteos and Afromu and Someday and Prolly, like, that's a pretty nice, like, building block, you know. If we can start there, we can go somewhere. So when they go out in Ander, that's an okay player. Ryu, he doesn't look that very good nowadays, you know. Like, it's been a few years since he looked like a top player. Again, AD carry got this massive problems. I feel like that team's just gradually dissolved. It's like it's almost like it just fucking evaporated over the summer split. Like, there's not a whole lot left. There's Someday and what else? Someday Afromu, that's it. And even Afromu looked a lot worse in the summer than spring.
Like Reaper, I think probably is one of those coaches where I can just kind of
I think he's a sick coach personally. I mean, Loco doesn't really rate him that much, but whatever. He doesn't rate a lot of good people.
Oh, yo. Since it's like public that H2K is not part of ULCS, I'm actually gonna go out and say it.
Go on then.
H2K was having a lot of internal and coaching problems that they recognize, and they tried to poach me multiple times. Where
they must have been desperate.
Wow, screw you.
A lot of problems, seriously. I thought you didn't know that was coming, but anyway, keep going. Tell the story, come on.
They tried to poach me multiple times, and I would often get emails from them or like calls and ask, and out of respect for Prolly and out of respect for my team, I never took those offers. So, I mean, I think Prolly is a good coach too, but I think it goes something like Reaper and Tony at the top. Like, Reaper and Tony are the two people I respect. I think Prawley's good, but like Reaper, Tony at the top, and then there's other coaches, at least for NA.
Well, I think out of all coaches that have like a little bit of clout, he's one. He's one that has it, and he's provided results. Like he's consistently provided results no matter what team that he was on. So like that, I think that I see your point, but I'm just saying like he's a good coach. He's a good
coach, but don't put him with Reaper than Tony.
Okay.
I think Prolly has gotten something like 4 different lineups into the top 4 of LCS. Like almost all the time in his like 4 years coaching or something, he's been like just always in the playoffs. Like, I actually think Reaper is mad overrated. Like, I don't know why you started loving him. Just because he came top 4 at Worlds once. The guy has won dick all. Everyone's telling me for the last 2 years, Cloud9, oh my God, look at these players. The best, they're all LCS players. Why doesn't he win anything then?
So, I'll tell you why I give credit to Reaper. And God, one thing that happens on the show so much, it's like, there's people I dislike, and then because I say nice things about them, because I respect their game, like, you think I love them. Like, for example, like Phoenix, I like dislike Phoenix so much, but I respect his mechanic and his laning prowess. And then so I talk good about it, and Thorin, you're like, you love Phoenix, you overrate Phoenix.
You brought him to Goldcorn United, and you defended him, and you got rid of Fly so you could play with him.
You know the weird thing, Dgon, for someone who loves like Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, like unfiltered type show, Loco doesn't get the premise at all. Like he always takes everything to heart, totally as like a literal statement. He never gets he doesn't get the entertainment side of things, does he?
Well, it's
some of it's hyperbole.
Yeah, well, remember, he's doing this for his brand, not to be right or make it entertaining.
Exactly, yes, exactly.
I hate you guys.
He's just trying to be respectful.
You're never invited to my show again. And I regret picking you as my co-caster for TC.
He wants to be friends with Riot. For all I know, I'm probably part of a documentary right now, like Loco becoming non-toxic or something, like where he's like, oh, you know, when I was in TSM, I had a really bad attitude, and then eventually, you know, I had to learn through the years this true spirit of friendship, and now I'm a good guy.
Okay, so back to actual original story. So me and Reaper, way back, we've known each other since 2012, 2011, and we've always had like a very, very big rivalry aspect, like starting from like Frost and Blaze, and like we're very extremely cocky people. Oh, if this was like a fucking rated R show, like, oh man, we would talk about like the girl drama we've had. Like our relationship's been like very rocky, very fiery. Okay. Point is, I give Reaper so much credit for what he did with such troublesome players and being able to bring them on board. Like, Meteos, not an easy person to work with. Jensen, sneaky, not easy people to work with. And the fact that he can keep them in line and keep the team where it is coach focus and coach opinion goes above. And Jack, you even brought Jack on board to bench Sneaky and Jensen. Like, man, props to you, Reaper. Like, respect to you, Reaper. Like, we might not see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I don't get how you can't give him credit for being able to keep these players in line. Like, in NA, it's one of the hardest things to do. And Reaper is someone where he can sell his strategy. He can sell the lifestyle, the culture he wants to the player. The only other person that I've seen able to do that is Weldon, but Weldon doesn't come with the game knowledge, where Reaper does. So, mad props to Reaper. Like, you are doing really well in coaching in terms of both worlds. So that's why I respect Reaper so much.
I definitely didn't say I'm not giving him any credit for doing any of that stuff. Like, that's just an imagined opinion you just created to argue against. So, well done. You beat yourself there. You beat a shit version of me that only exists in your head. In the real world, if you ever think you beat me, you better fucking wake up, apologise before you even say it in the first banter. But anyway, the point I would say is this. Like, I'll give him credit for the summer split there. Like, that was a very unique challenge that he seems to have done well with. One split does not your career make. Like, he had a lot of other splits he coached. And
EDG, other splits.
I don't think anyone has won less with more talent than fucking Reaper.
There's only 2 coaches that's ever brought NA out of groups. Reaper, and you're talking to the other one.
No, I'm pretty sure Sven Skeren brought TSM out of that group, mate. So unless Sven Skeren was the coach of TSM that year, I think you're sadly mistaken, my friend. Sadly, your coaching did everything you could to make them lose in groups. Lose to Royal Never Give Up. Lose to SK Game.
God,
you did your damn best. You're just lucky Sven Skeren went racist for about an hour. If that hadn't happened in your career, if I go back in time in a time machine now and just put my hand over like the keyboard when Sven Skeren's at that boot camp, you're not even out of groups, homie.
I actually want to speak up on this. So on the final game we played versus SK, that's when coaches weren't allowed to go on stage to draft. So I gave Bjergsen a piece of paper that said what to do whenever they picked Ziggs. and then it said pick Yasuo, and it was such a good Yasuo comp. We had such a good Yasuo comp, and then I think we went with Syndra, and then we talked about that pick over and over again. I was definitely not a perfect coach, but I coached so well during that group, and I coached so well during Worlds. Like,
didn't coach your star player enough to buy into your philosophy and do what you said.
Yeah, that's where
cheating? Was having a piece of paper cheating?
No, it's not cheating. You give them piece of paper for draft, and then they can look at it, and afterwards, Riot takes it away. Okay. Man, I hate like how you never give me credit for being. I was a damn good coach. Fuck you.
I never said you're a bad coach. I'm one of the only people who defend you, mate.
Thorin defends you all the time. You're being Mr. Sensitivo right now, dude.
Yes, he's got... Loco is just this emotional teenager who veers from one emotion to another, and he's just all over the place, isn't he? He's like, oh, I hate you. Oh, no, I love you, really. It's like, fucking hell, where are you? So anyway, the point I was getting to was, like, I just think, like... Here's the point. You've done the classic Reddit move of when I said Reaper is overrated, you've taken that to mean he is bad. No, he's crap. He's overrated because people would probably call him the best coach right now, mate. I think, to me, he's like, actually, I think his record's pretty legit. I think he's probably like the fourth best coach or something, you know.
Who's your best? Who's your best? Who's your best
coach? That's interesting.
Are we talking about right now?
Yeah, is it Coach Kane?
Yeah.
Just right now, not in total.
Yeah, so right now.
We're just doing NALCS, yeah?
Sure, yeah, NALCS best coaches.
So if we're just talking for right now, maybe I would give him like top 3, maybe be like second or third.
Okay. Who's your 1 and 2?
Kane Zix.
Kane seems to have done a pretty good job because I actually do think that people overrated how good the Team Liquid squad was. I actually think they kind of had just enough pieces to make themselves as good as they were, like, which is why they were able to do upgrades. So I have to figure he probably did a good job. That's obviously speculation on that one. He's only done 1 year. I always thought Zix was very good personally. Like the last year... I can't even blame him that much on him because I think the lineup was garbage. I don't think anyone could have done anything with that. So he's generally been pretty good. I think Prolly's pretty good. So I think he's in there with Prolly. I'd put him like third maybe.
Okay. I think the big thing about Kane is Kane had a really good roster, and Kane had a pretty decent roster, and he went to relegation. I can say this for myself. With that roster, I would have not been in relegation.
Wait a minute, which roster are we talking about?
Look at this. Look, I was just plucking it back.
The Golden Glue, Rainover, Lorlo, Piglet, Double Lift, and Matt.
Right. Okay.
Where he brought that roster to relegations, and we celebrate him for all the success he had. So it's hard for me, Kane is like a hard one. Once TL gets like a shitty roster, or once they have problems with their roster and they maybe have to exchange a really good piece for a bad piece, if they can maintain the success, then I'll start giving more and more full props to Kane.
Here's what I'll do. At the moment, bearing in mind Zix just came off a year with no results, and Kane is kind of unproven. I'll just say they're all at equal level at the moment. But I'll put it this way. After Worlds, you would have thought Reaper was like the Jesus of coaching. Like people really were going ham on this guy. Whereas I'm just going to say it like I said it. Everyone else I've listed off there hasn't had talent just rammed in their rosters every single year. Like he has had so much talent and he is still yet to win. So say what you want. That doesn't mean he's a bad coach, but I think that I personally think there might be something missing there as a coach. Just speculation. Anyway, we'll move on. So even though we've alluded to them before, a lot of people forget there is a team called FlyQuest. I mean, we talked before, maybe Pobelter goes there. The big problem they have as a team is, first of all, they absolutely flunked making like an identity. Like to this day, no one really understands what the identity is.
Snickers and FlyQuest.
Snickers and teamwork. I think like teamwork.
And Turtle. Team. I think Turtle's more recognizable as a brand than FlyQuest.
So the question is this. Obviously, they are a team with backing. They are a team with money. This is the franchising era. So how do they stop being a mediocre team?
Snipe one of the big pieces from one of the bigger teams or get a big time import. I think I don't think they'll do it. I've heard good things about FlyQuest roster. FlyQuest and 100 Thieves, I have heard both of them upgraded. So I'm not sure how they upgraded. It has to be Pobelter. Keen switching to Pobelter is a clear upgrade. That's the one thing I think happened.
Sure, but you've just, as we alluded to before, maybe Flame isn't going to be there in the team next year. So what do they do for top lane if that's the case? No, there's no decision either way on that one. You know, like every player pretty much did the same tweet of like, you know, I'm available, contact me at this email or whatever. But it does feel as though they would have just signed him up already if they wanted him.
Yeah, I mean, people can make that tweet. So what teams are doing is, we don't want to give you a straight raise. Like, we think you're good, but we don't want to give you a straight raise. And for the money that we're going to have to pay you, we think we might be able to find someone better. And that's why teams allow them to make free agency post. Because then you can sell the player, and then you subtract how much you sold for. If you sold him for $100, then you can pay whoever you're getting the extra $100, and then you're saving money. Yay! So that's kind of the premise of allowing players to make the free agency post, that you get to play with the buyout also.
Okay.
I think Flamezone's likely going to stay on FlyQuest. I mean, he likes his life here in NA so far. Like, he likes traveling. He likes.
Don't you find that a bit weird though? Because here's the thing: he is someone who, I'll give you a little spoiler. I still haven't brought it out because I have my own issues with like what I've had to go through with the subtitling part. But I did an interview with Flame, right? Yeah. And he I'll just drop this because it's not a big deal. He initially said like, "Oh, I want to work on my English." Like, he didn't say this to me.
Yeah, he loves English.
So he wanted to originally do the whole interview. And so what I told him is, well, let's not get crazy now. You know, like my interviews are like in-depth 2-hour things. It's not like a 10-minute interview, you know. So what I told him was, you know what? Just in case, I'll bring a translator anyway. Spoiler, the translator does the entire thing pretty much. Like, because obviously he quickly realized, even if you do want to work in English, you can't go from like very basic English to like an in-depth answer. No one's going to make that leap up, no matter how hard you try. So he doesn't seem to be somebody who speaks that great English. Also, you look like he's also a bit of like they used to nickname him in LGD like the princess. He's a guy who's like a very sensitive guy.
Oh.
You know, doesn't seem like, I'm a basically like life in America.
He's picky AF, but he does like his life in America. As a personal friend, I can tell you he likes life here in America. He misses some things about Korea, but he can see himself staying long-term in America. And he personally told me he wants to play pro until he's at least 30. And I asked him where, and he said potentially America, like maybe for a green card. Like, I like the life here. I like the food here. I like the difference of culture. I like traveling. And I love spending time with my best friend, Loco. He said that word for word. Maybe all those parts were true except the last one.
I think FlyQuest is if you're an import player, you look at that destination, and it's a destination spot with one import slot in the mid lane. If Flame leaves, then you have one import slot in the mid lane, right? You have one. Is Santorin count?
No, Santorin's NA. Santorin's NA.
Right? So you have that import slot. You have a young kid in JJ in the bot lane who's going to have his struggles, but he's working with one of the most experienced AD carries in Wild Turtle. So, like, I think that's something there. There might also be moves there at that position that included North American. So that can be like a place for any kind of import to be like, hey, I want to make my North American splash. I want to find a team that is stable, that doesn't hate each other, that has a good structure that's there, and like didn't have many difficulties in the first split. We'll just say that for other franchises. And FlyQuest is that team. They were very close. Did they make it to playoffs? They made it to playoffs. They made it to playoffs the summer split, I thought.
They got 3-0'd by 100 Thieves, yeah.
Yeah, well, everyone got 3-0'd in the summer split. Everyone got 3-0'd. Oh, no. Everyone got 3-0'd in the gauntlet. Either way, it's a team that has talent you can build upon. And unlike Clutch, that did make it as well to playoffs, like, you can hear the stories from the team themselves and say, like, hey, I like this team. I like these people. I like the structure that's there. There's a lot of testimonial power there.
Yeah, so the Nick Fan, the GM of FlyQuest, like, a lot of praises to him. Like, players love working with Nick when I was on TL, and like a lot of people say good things about working with Nick. So like, they're very like at least family oriented, and people on the team enjoy being there. So they're a weird spot. I mean, culture, all that's good. Like, build a facility, all that's good. They're the only team that I remember that didn't announce building a facility other than Optic. Golden Guardians did. I think those were the last three. So I'm sure they're going to build a facility, but you need to
renting a facility.
Yeah, and you need to get an import. Like, if you're gonna make a mark on the NA scene, like, sure, if you're getting Pobelter, great, like, get Pobelter, but you need to make a mark. Like, you need to start placing somewhere. Like, we need to see you during semis. We need to see you during finals. It's gonna get started to recognize as a brand and as a team, like people talk about.
Yeah. Like, for me, the most depressing move was, when they announced initially, like, oh, Meteos has been traded to FlyQuest. I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, he's not even going to play. Well, this is fucking garbage. Like, that would have at least been a bright spot, Like, obviously, that would have been a big win. And they never even used him. So I think this is a team that just lacks almost anything. I don't know what the point in it is as a team at the moment.
Well, I think just throughout this conversation, I think that you've rated Meteos like higher than what I would, just because of his play on 100 Thieves. I think he had the best top laner in North America in someday to just consistently camp, and he had the most veteran shot caller in the game. So I think he had a lot of those things that made him work. And I like, we're not crediting Santorin enough. Like, I think TSM Santorin is like such a meme, yes, but he played well last split. And because I find myself also doing the TSM Santorin meme all the time, but he did play himself into a starting role and beat out Meteos once they traded him. It was up to him to want to double down and fight for his spot, and we don't know if he did or not, or if he tried his best or not, but the answer was that they stayed with Santorin, who had generally stats that led him to the top half of LCS junglers.
I think
but the difference is though Meteos has like some star potential, and crucially, the thing I really like about Meteos as a player is he is someone who has a very clear sense of how he wants to play the game, and if you let him, he will play that way. So he takes initiative, he sets things up himself. Like that's mad underrated in junglers, I think. Like there's way too many junglers. Like for example, I have a really hard time rating a lot of the Korean junglers, for example, because I have no clue how many of them are just like a bot for their coach and they just do everything the coach tells them. It's all they do. Like if they really do that, then yeah, I wouldn't move that guy to some like TSM and expect them to be awesome, because maybe they won't be without that coach. People like Xmithy, Meteos seem to have like also like from their position some leadership qualities. Like they help set things up as well, which I think is pretty underrated. So like difference is Santorin did an okay job, but okay, what are we building on with Santorin? Like we better get some straight fire in some of the other positions, and at the moment we don't have that in this team, you know. That was just a missed opportunity, I think. So, and although, as you say, you can never know what happened behind the scenes. Maybe you just play like shit in the scrims or just said, I don't care. I'm not in under Thieves. Could be true.
Let's move on. This conversation's been underwhelming, but I want to move on to more underwhelming teams like Optic, Golden Guardians, and Echo Fox.
Oh, your faves.
What are they going to do? What do you guys think they're going to do?
Optic is in such a sell mode right now. It's pretty crazy how much Romain was doing with not a lot. So Romain, the general manager for Optic Gaming, stepped down. They promoted their, I don't know what he was doing, maybe their
Keaton.
House manager, Keaton Beeson, to general manager, and it's been a large jump. I chatted with Zabutin during scouting grounds, and Zab's been doing a lot of that heavy carrying of logistics and reaching out to other players and other teams, but just like getting an organization running, which is, it takes a lot of work, and I understand that, but then that's taking away his focus and their focus on getting better players and re-signing the ones that they're locked into. I think the only players on their roster that they're locked into are Dokla and Alarum, their top laners, along with their jungler Fnatic and Gate. I think everyone there was on a one-year contract. So I have no clue. And with Optic just kind of detracting in all of their esports operations, it's a mystery. It's definitely a mystery on what they're going to do. They have options, but it kind of feels like they're just sitting and waiting, which is what a lot of teams are doing right now in this free agency period after Team Liquid and Cloud9 with those moves. They're just sitting and waiting.
I wanted to touch on it later, but I think this is a good time to touch on it and why that's happening. Player prices will drop dramatically in a few days. So right now, when there's multiple players open and people are competing for players, like the prices are shooting up and up and up. And what happens at the end of the, off-season, where there's only like one top lane slot open because all the other 9 teams filled out their top lane. There's maybe only one jungle slot open, and there's maybe only one support slot open. Prices for these players go way down because they're left at a state where it's like, I can either
I gotta drop my price or I'm not gonna play an LCS.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happening for these 3 teams. Like they're probably cheapening out and not going for the better and the bigger players and waiting for the player prices to drop where there's few slots open, and you basically hold a gun to the player's head. Do you want to play an LCS?
That is not what we do. Those are not conversations that happen. That's not how it goes, but I see your point.
Yeah, that's what's realistically happening. They're measuring their pride versus money. They're like, man, I want to be an LCS player, but I'm not gonna get paid what I want. That's the reality of things. That's the reality of things. I feel like
things have just moved slowly because like a lot of the import players haven't landed anywhere yet. You know,
but
once they land, then things will move. Like the off-season is a very long time, and I think to reach that point, it takes a really long time, like a long standoff, not just a week. It hasn't even been a week yet.
The thing, like, once certain pieces are set, right, and the doors close down, like, people have to get signed. Like, people want to sign right now. So I'm helping a few players and I'm helping a few teams. Every person I talk to is, I want to sign within 24 hours. I want to sign within 48 hours. And once those big pieces fall, like all these like leftover players, they're going to have to take pay cuts and try to get on any LCS teams possible. Or what are you going to do? Go play an academy? Go boot camp in Korea? Like those are career killers. Like it's
Gage found a home. Froggen got on the show and got to say like his piece about his boot camp and like how he's changed and bad. You know, like he has an opportunity there. Those are career killers.
Here's the thing, right? Those aren't career killers because you're talking about like the few people that went back. The actual career killers are the people that we don't talk about, people that no one talks about because they're forgotten. They still have their free agency posts out there. They're still trying, but we never talk about them. Doran, you haven't spoke up on all this. What do you think of this whole offseason thing? And like for the lower teams and the lower players?
The one team of the three that doesn't make sense to me is Echo Fox. Because if I'm Optic, as we've alluded to before, because of the bigger organizational issues they have, where in all their games they're literally firing people, like downsizing, like as like a company, it feels like the Infinite people were like, right, this shit is costing way too much. Like, what are we getting from this, you know? And they're scaling it back. So I don't think that they're going to be what they were perceived to be like a year ago, which is like, hey, we've got lots of money to spend, like let's buy all these players, you know. Add in that lineup they made last year was fucking terrible. Like, there's another one where I'm not going to say I called all the lineups of the year, but I said at the very beginning, before NALCS began in 2018, that like Clutch Gaming didn't look good, Optics lineup looked fucking terrible. Like there's a few teams I said that these lineups just do not look good. Like I'll give credit, okay. One that I also didn't think looked that good was 100 Thieves, but they overperformed what I expected. So I'll give one that I got wrong just to balance it out there. But like I think Optic from day one was a bad approach. I know like with Remain, they had this whole angle of like he's gonna like be the guy with the big vision, and he was implementing all that shit. Like he had two rosters that scrum against each other, and you're gonna try and like do it the Korean style basically, and people compete for spots, and that all sounds great. But I think sadly he found what a lot of people are gonna find, which is the reason why you can't just transpose things that work in Korea with the West. Is first of all in Korea they don't have to like take 3 years to get going. Like they just instantly are going because, as we've discussed in the past, some of it's cultural, some of it's aspects of like you don't have the same free agency leverage in Korea. You can't just go elsewhere. You can't put it this way. The Korea, I'll give you the best example of the difference between a Western career and a Korean career. Right, what Dardoch has pulled in his career in NALCS, you would have never heard of him after his first team in the LCK. He would have been benched, and every other coach would be like, fuck picking this guy up. He is a nightmare. You're just out of LCK. Sorry, mate. Like, at best, you're a bench player who maybe tries to work your way back in the original squad. He wouldn't be doing like, he's got like 2, 3, 4 chances. Goes to one big team, they put all his hopes in him, blows it. Goes to the next one, they put all his hopes in, blow it. They even have to keep trading him sometimes for lesser players, you know, like, the stuff that he's done would never work. So what I'm trying to get to here is, I don't think Remain's big picture was wrong. I think he had some aspects that were probably good, but I think thinking you could implement them in such a short space of time is what I think was naive. And thinking that everyone would see how brilliant it is and be on board. Because I have to say, especially in the West at the moment, people just want results now. If you don't have the results, they don't give a fuck how cool all the coaching philosophy you've got is and this idea you've got for developing a player. They want to win now, especially if they spent a lot of money on the lineup. So I think that was just a mismatch there. Like, difference is if Remain had been doing all that in like CLG, maybe they do give him the time. Maybe they're willing to like try and develop players. But for me in Optic, like they're just a ship that has no rudder. I don't know what pieces they're going to get, because if I was a player, unless like you're saying, Loco, it's at the end of the sort of the off season and there's no teams left and I want to be a starter, I'm not going to fucking Optic Gaming. That looks like a nightmare scenario where they mismanaged it, and even the good players ended up looking bad. So I think overall they have to be one of the worst positions. Golden Guardians, we tied in before. The one I want to talk about is Echo Fox though, because Echo Fox is the one where I'm amazed that they're waiting until the end to make their moves. Because if you're going to keep Dardoch and you're going to keep Huni, you should be going hard for a roster that can win the LCS. Those are good pieces.
Well, they're a team that downsized as well. They like sliced like almost all of their fighting game staff and a lot of their internal staff. Like, I think that they're going budget. They just didn't go. I think they actually did a good job PRing it, but they didn't go as hard as Optic did with how everything got cut, you know? So I think that's a little bit different. Do you know if Huni is signed for next year? Is he signed for next, or Huni is signed for next year?
He didn't make a free agency post.
I believe it was implied he was.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if that's the case, I think they're still in a good spot. You have Huni, you're no matter what, you're in a good spot.
Oh, they must have 100% because they picked up Song. they got a Korean coach, and then like it makes no sense to cut Huni. So like they probably got Song to control Huni.
Why don't they get Song? Why don't they just get Song to be a good coach? You know,
that's partly reason.
He's the best available Korean coach right now. There's some coaches that are out there that unfortunately aren't.
I mean, the
available.
obvious joke that you missed there, Dgon, is like, why don't they get him to just be a good coach? Well, they're not fucking miracle workers, are they? Whereas he does speak Korean. that much we can guarantee, right? So listen, let's just take what we can get here. It's little baby steps at Optic. Like Echo Fox, rather. Like,
Man.
Don't expect too much.
Oh, you know how people talk about Korean coaches. Kane is like very un-Korean in a way, where Kane is like more flexible and he works with the players and he lets players have opinion, and he's more of like a mediator. Song is a very Korean coach. I love Josh and I love
enjoy
Song.
Dardok. Yeah, he's
Oh my god, it's gonna be funny.
What I'm waiting for, like the moment I'm waiting for, is when Dardok uses sarcasm, because I've noticed Koreans don't get that by default. Like they have a very different way of talking. Because obviously the best way to be a little shit if you're in a Westerner is be like, yeah, sure, I'll do that in the game, and then just fucking do whatever you want. You know, like when the coach is like, but why didn't you? You said you would do it. It's like, yeah, sure I did. Like, just keep. That's what you need to do, Dardok. If you want to be an asshole, this is how you get a free month before he benches you. Just use sarcasm. Don't outright flame him. He'll know that. Everyone can tell when you call him an idiot. But soft sell it. Just use some sarcasm. Do like what I do. The reason why my account has never ever been banned when I played League of Legends. I played a few hundred games. You know. Here's why. Here's the secret. I've told people this on past episodes of Narrative Wake. The secret to not getting banned is you say exactly what you want to say, but you don't say it in words that would be banned if someone just read the words on their own. Because remember, they just get the chat log. So what I do is I type stuff like, thanks, jungler. You were very useful when you came there. I hope your life lasts a long time. Careful on the stairs while you go down. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Like, that will not get you banned because I'm not saying anything bad there. But I'm definitely obviously like implying like, fuck this guy and everything. But I would just do that. I would just be doing subtle shit, you know. So take a page from my page. Dardok. You don't actually have to get reformed. You just have to appear like you're reformed, so the parole board lets you out, and then you can get back to robbing them liquor stores, homie. You get my point?
Oh my god. I actually want to bring Josh on the show sometime. Me and Josh have been repairing our relationship, and I think he would actually be a great guest, and I hope you won't be that mean to him.
I'm going to call him out now. He agreed to do an interview with me, never showed up, never responded to the tweets either, the DMs, so fuck that little bitch.
Oh my god.
I hope he gets slapped down so hard in the LCS.
Wow.
And by the way, he's one of my favourite players, but I don't care as a person. Fuck him to infinity and beyond.
God, I
like Josh.
Why do you do this?
Because he's never coming on this show anyway, as I've just alluded to, mate. He's not someone who replies.
Man, why you like this? Oh God,
the same person who told me last episode, journalists shouldn't. By the way, their only job is to be journalists. Shouldn't report information they get if a Korean team totally unconnected to them doesn't want them to. He thought that was being respectful, but apparently Dardok just literally wasted my time with no apology is just fine. It's cool to disrespect people you don't like, right, Loco?
Well, you're a fully grown 50-year-old dude. Josh is like someone in his
How old's the Rocks Tigers manager?
Okay.
Too old. and not yet gone, sadly. There we go. There's the real answer.
Josh is someone in his early teens, like now maybe late 20s or early 20s.
I have info. I could just drop that and burn your world right open now. But the sad thing is I actually am on some level an honourable person. So I have info about Dardok I could drop, but I'm not going to do it because it's just... It wouldn't be worth it just to win an argument with you, Loco. So I get your point. He is a young person.
Let's get back on to Echo Fox, boys.
Josh, I love you. Right now. When you come on the show, we'll both argue against Dorian, okay? Don't worry.
I saw that worked in the past. So
all right, so Huni's still there. Dardok's there. Mid is where they're going to import, probably, because Phoenix got treated poorly or whatever. Lost was good, but is he an import AD carry? Like, we've already seen how that plays out with Piglet, and then Smoothie is one of the pillars that you build upon. He wanted to move somewhere where he could get to Worlds.
Loco implied on the last episode, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, that like Bang might be joining and Echo Fox might be a destination for him.
Yeah, Bang is likely come to NA. Not 100%, but he's likely coming to NA. I'm not sure which team he's talking to. Maybe Fox, maybe 100 Thieves. Maybe Optic, I don't know. Maybe Golden Guardians, who knows? But Echo Fox is a possible destination. No way. What? Bang to Echo Fox?
No, Bang to Golden Guardians.
Okay. What about Bang to Echo Fox? any value in that.
Bang to Echo Fox and bang to 100 Thieves makes a lot of sense, and I think 100 Thieves is a little bit tougher because then you have to play a native mid laner.
We don't know where Pobelter went.
Right, aka Pobelter. But then, do you move on from Ryu? Like
anyway. Easily. At this point, easily.
Maybe. Yeah, actually, I think your team is overall better if you put in Pob and Bang than it is with Ryu and whoever else they could get, any other North American.
I'm pretty sure 100 Thieves will change their mid. If it's not for Pobelter and then getting Bang, upgrading Ryu to a better import. Like 100 Thieves seems like a team that's growing. Like we're talking about all these downsizing teams right now, right? Optic, Echo Fox, potentially Golden Guardians, who knows? But 100 Thieves is a growing team. I feel like they're going to want to spend more. And if they're spending more, an easy upgrade would be Ryu for an import or Ryu for Pobelter and getting an import AD.
I think that sounds like a pretty likely destination. Like if they're willing to move on from Ryu and probably is really willing to cut his guy that he's gone across the pond for multiple times, then yes, like that sounds like a play. But you know, they've been together for a long time, and so I don't know. We'll see. But I think so. Bang for Echo Fox, and then mid, we've already cycled through all their mid laners. Like, is there a world where they move on? Or actually, no, because then they still have Huni. So, dang, they need a North American mid.
You want to hear something funny?
Oh, what?
Huni mid. How about that? Huni's been talking about role swap for such a long time.
This guy would be the most inappropriate professional mid lane player I can think of. Like, mid lane is not the role where you can just chain feed, like, and just keep going all in. Like, that is the opposite of the role you can do that in. Like, nowadays, you have to be stable to be a mid laner.
It's more so like Huni's put in a position. Would I rather play tanks? Or would I rather play mid?
Makes sense. Yeah, like I think like people have already seen his flaws at top lane. My problem is like I'm not sure mid's the position for you, mate.
Yeah, and if Song is the coach, do you think Song would allow that to happen? You said he's the strict Korean coach. He's the one that like follows structure. Like
I think Huni.
You're adjusting your whole team for one player.
I think Huni will get what he wants. If Huni wants to play mid, I think Huni will get to play mid. I'm not 100% sure it'll happen, and it's not even I didn't even hear this information. What I know is about a year ago and also 2 years ago, Huni considered switching to mid. So if they can't find a good import mid, Huni to mid.
Huni was like, "Hey, Pob, I need you to move over." He foresaw like Pob not being able to survive in 2018, so he figured, all right, in 2018, I'll be ready to be a top mid laner as a North American talent. Okay, I see.
You know, I think shit like this is crazy, but after the Perks to AD thing, I think Huni to mid is not that unlikely. If Perks can play AD, Huni to mid.
No, but supposedly, I mean, I guess you're probably going to say a thing about Huni, but everyone claims that Perks already used to sort of like offlane as AD and like had put in like lots of hours. I'm guessing maybe Huni did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Huni's secondary is mid whenever he queues up. All right.
I mean, crazy idea. Maybe just try playing tanks as your secondary. You know, just an idea, mate. Like you haven't fully mastered that top lane role yet, boy. Like. And that's the other thing I do feel bad about Huni for, I have to say, though. The 1 year you might have actually done something at Worlds for me. Like, you know, this time you could have actually been the king. It could have worked. But no. Alas, no.
Let's go across the Atlantic.
We'll do an EU as well. It's 2 hours long. Let's just make this NA. And we'll do a different one for EU. We'll do EU like early next week. I think this is a good one for NA. We covered a lot. Covered a lot of ground.
Just one thing I want to add. I'm not like... I don't work for Golden Guardians anymore, but I do think that if a player gets attached to them, like things will be good because I've only heard great things about Danon and everyone speaks highly about him, whether it was at Cloud9 or some of the players now. So I think there are positives that can happen at that organization.
Okay. I love Kenneget. Kenneget Amigo, pretty way back too. I've known him since I moved to NA. Like, really responsible dude. You don't meet a lot of responsible people in esports. Like, Kenneget's someone that's been like dating his high school sweetheart and like is getting engaged and like is settling down. Like Kenneget has always been like the little bit more control side of Cloud9 where like you have like high, you have like mediums, like those were not easy personalities to manage. And the fact that Kenneget managed, and I mean, it might sound like normal. Hey, people settling down and being responsible is a normal thing, but in esports it's not. And Kenneget has definitely been like a responsible and a solid
Sure.
rock for C9, and he's going to be for Guardians. Why are you laughing, Dorian?
That's one perspective. I mean, the first things I was thinking is, right, okay, so scared to actually play the field and test life out. He just literally married the first person he met. then beyond that, not the best decision making. He married them, didn't he just like draw it out for a while, make it like 7 years before you marry him. Then he's now in a team, so he's not going to be someone who's adventurous, trying to get new people. He's just going to stick with the same trash roster. I believe in you guys, love you. We can do it as a family. Like, if anything, he's the worst possible pickup of all time. That's all pure speculation / a joke, but it wasn't bad. I tied it all in.
Okay.
I didn't say that they were making moves. I was just saying that I think it's going to be a good organization.
Yeah, exactly.
Daniel,
here's
what
the
are you
thing:
gonna...
when they lose every game, they'll be the only team ever that had a smile. Like, they'll do a little hug. They'll send each other Christmas cards afterwards. They'll still be absolute trash. Let's be real, but they'll be such a great set of friends as they lose. So
Daniel, one thing I learned...
and if you need one person when you lose, it's some friends by your side. You don't want someone who's just being harsh to you, flaming you. Come on.
One thing I learned is don't try to make the show wholesome or sponsor
Don't ever do
friendly.
that. Don't dare ever do that.
Don't you ever dare try.
All right, I think
It just comes out of me.
Yeah, well, okay, got it. Right, we didn't need that person to yell at us. That's why Loco went packing for a little while. Right, that didn't work out for the organization.
All right, Daniel,
All right.
What are you up to next year? Where can we see what you've been up to after Golden Guardians?
So I'm gonna be. This is, I guess, where I'll be announcing it. I'm gonna be creating content and getting back into shoutcasting and hosting. I realized that I had a great opportunity to work with an eSports team, also work with the Golden State Warriors, which was great. But my love is in storytelling. I enjoy storytelling and being entertaining on that front, and I think I have a talent to do that. So I'll be putting out a bunch of content for next year. So you can find me at Dgon on Twitter and on YouTube as well.
Okay, cool. Dorian, anything you want to say before we end?
No. We already do enough of these shows as it is. I'll be back in the next one.
Okay. Bye. Let's end it on that.